welcome to the Long Time Podcast. This go around, we're talking about what we thought of the beginning of the fall 2020 season. Tons of anime and tons of fun to be had this season. Basically, if you're a fan of any genre, then we've got you covered here. So, let's just get into it.
I am not sure if it's just that I'm a little overwhelmed after the somewhat sparse offerings of the summer season, or if there's just a metric fuckload of stuff in the fall season. But holy fucking hell, I am watching way too much this season, I think. There's so much shit out. It's freaking me out, guys.
I was happy that I was able to watch a decent amount of first episodes of things, but yeah, I think there was just a lot of things that I wanted to watch. I don't know if there was also just a lot of things in general compared to previous seasons or something like that.
I think there's objectively just a metric fuckload of stuff in the fall 2020 season. There's so much out there that I want to watch and wanted to watch. There's stuff that I have ended up dropping just because it's I don't hate this by any stretch of the imagination, but there's so much other fucking shit I need to watch. And, I can't possibly keep this in the rotation, too, on top of everything else. It's a good problem to have right about now, I would say.
Yeah, I'm actually really digging several shows. So I ended up in a similar situation where I watched 1 or 2 episodes and I was it's good. It's just it's also a bajillion other things that I need to get to. I wonder if that has to do with some things deciding to delay into this season, or were they already scheduled out? Most of the stuff this season.
I think some of this, in general, for the fall season, I think is always pretty packed. It's like spring; it's always just full. But I think it's less that fall had a lot of things were delayed to fall, as in, I don't think that's more of the thing as it was just summer didn't have a lot.
Okay.
A summer was abnormally small, even though it still felt like there was quite a bit. Summer had I think it was either 14 or 15 shows, and fall has 29 for comparison.
Yeah, there's a hell of a lot.
Now, we have seen pre-COVID era, there some fall and spring seasons would have up to upward bounds of 30 or 40 shows.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, this is still a smaller amount than we're used to, but maybe the there's just less shows coming out, whatever. But there's I still think that, man, 29's a lot. Just sitting here looking at this list, and I was oh my gosh, I was going through shows, and then it wasn't an issue of oh man, I want to watch all these shows, but it was man, I'm interested in maybe 10 of these, but by the time I watched 3 or 4 shows, and I watched more episodes and just start getting more into it, it's you become wanting to watch less and less because you're already satisfied with what you've already watched. I don't know. That's just me, maybe.
No, I can understand that entirely. I have my full loadout here, and I am so good to go. Why would I put anything else in here? This is my setup.
Right. And I mean, I don't think that's a problem.
No,
I mean, it just means that, if you want to watch stuff, you can backlog it or whatever. It's just, there is a lot.
Yeah,
and
it's
I've liked a lot of the stuff I've watched, so. What is it?
Sorry, it's the best of problems for an industry is that there's just too many damn things to watch.
Yeah, I think that's definitely just a thing that happens anymore. So,
yeah, that's for sure. But the bottom line I was going for is just it felt like whiplash coming out of the summer season, and then getting into this. And even though, like, yeah, this is still not as bad as it could be, well, quote unquote bad as it could be for a fall season, I'm just like, oh my fucking god, what did I walk into? I'm not used to this anymore.
So
yeah.
So what did you walk into?
I walked into a lot, Kyle.
Do we need to send you to the
spider
hospital?
web and couldn't get it off of him.
Yeah. Like something real
You know
bad.
that feeling, like when you walk through a door and then you're like, you finally walk through it or whatever, and then you're like, oh, I got something on me, and it's like this webby substance that you have. Not sure if it's a spider web or if like you just like lost some of your hair, or maybe that's just me.
You do have long hair. That is true.
Like, okay, occasionally I've had that feeling, and it's like, oh man, I walked through something, and then it's just my hair. So anyway, that's neither here nor there.
So that's the fall 2020 season. You walk through a doorway, and you're like, oh, what is all this shit?
Yeah, that's basically the feeling it is.
As long as you're not also like freaking out, like, oh, get it all off. Oh gosh.
As long as there's no spiders, that's fine.
No, I actually was surprised there's actually a decent amount of comfy shit this season, and I'm like, hell yeah, I'm here for it.
Yeah, this is very much a Kyle loaded season.
Yeah.
It was nice to see that after the last 2 seasons being like, oh god, he's probably starving, that poor thing.
I'm just like off in the corner.
All this poor boy has is fucking Beaufry, and that's it.
Yeah,
you just like
that feels like forever ago. Yeah. Was that in the spring?
That was spring.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that feels like ages ago.
Yeah, I know. It's almost November.
You just check on me and you like pop open the door, and I'm just like scrawny as all hell, and I'm like, help me. There's nothing comfy. Okay. It's all pins and needles in this apartment.
Okay, so in terms of comfy shit,
yeah.
I tried my hand at a couple shows that I would consider comfy. I really only stuck with a very small handful. The one that I adored the most was, and I was typing on my notes, and I really did not mean for this to be a pun like it was, but Sleepy Princess in the Demon Castle turned out to be an absolute fucking sleeper hit for me.
It was surprising for me.
Wow.
I looked at the poster and the synopsis, and I was like, that sounds okay. I'll try that. And it has ended up being one of the shows that I look forward to the most every fucking week. It's so goddamn good.
It's very
Holy
good.
Shit. This show has made me laugh probably the most out of any show this season so far. It is the funniest fucking thing. I adore it.
I love all the people on
So
Twitter.
you actually got around to watching it?
Yeah.
Good. Because I remember we were talking a couple days ago, and I mentioned this, and you were like, what? And I'm like, how do you not watch this?
This is exactly up his alley. Why isn't he watching this? I just didn't see it on the list for some reason whenever I was scrolling through. I did get around to watching it, and it was just absolutely wonderful, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I remember all the people on Twitter saying that it is the like most mood show of 2020, or it's just, it's all shit. You're captured. You're stuck in a demon castle, and it's like, oh no, it's a terrible situation. There's no way out of it right now, and you just want a gosh dang good night's sleep. Like that's all you want.
Yeah. The premise is delightful, and I'm just impressed by how the show is able to iterate on it. Because, so I went into the first episode, and it was fucking great, because the princess is an absolute disaster. She is vicious, she's cunning, and she's also just, like, a little cinnamon roll. And I was, astonished by how they managed to roll all those ideas together and just make it so, like, yeah, she's captured, but she really doesn't give a shit. She just wants to fucking sleep. But how it went from that to, oh, cool, I'm going to get some big scissors and murderize the living fuck out of these living sheet ghosts and turn their bodies into my sheets and pillows.
Because it's the comfiest thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I was so not expecting any of it, and I was not expecting it to be as funny as it was, and it was, and I was like, okay, well, cool. So we watched the first episode, and, like, she got a new pillow, and sheets. Okay, cool, great. I don't really know how they're going to stretch this whole I need stuff to help me fall asleep bit for a whole, 12 episodes. But every single fucking episode, they managed to roll out some new dumb shit thing, like get a difficult book to help you fall asleep, and she ends up cracking open some forbidden grimoire. Or, try to get some light to simulate the rising sun so you can wake up well. And she ends up stealing the Demon Lord's ultimate weapon sword shit. And it
uses it as
just
a nice
hilarious
little,
the whole way through.
Light.
Yeah.
It's very good.
A lot of pieces clicked together when I found out a couple days ago that this has the same director as Gekkan Shoujo Nozaki-kun.
Oh, yeah.
And everything made sense now, from the comedic timing to the way that it just hits right every single moment. I'm delighted at all turns by this fucking show.
That just makes me more excited to watch more episodes.
Yeah, it's very good. I'm all caught up. I can say even up to the third episode, still as good as the first two. They just keep fucking hitting it out of the park. I love it.
That's amazing.
It is.
It's definitely a show that, I thought there wasn't a lot of depth to it at first, but apparently there's a little bit more to it than I thought. Yeah, I was surprised by that, and that's really it. I love it. I just want to sleep too, so I understand.
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't have a whole lot more to say about it beyond that, in just that it's surprisingly fun, and I'm having a great time with it. And that's all I really need it to be right now.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Good shit.
Good shit. I got started on another comfy one, the Fruit Tart Idol.
Oh. Fruit Tart Idol? Oh.
Yeah, it's Fruit Tart Dropout or something like that.
Yeah, Fruit Tart Dropout.
Oh. I see that.
I did enjoy the meta-ness of it, in that, the camera that we're watching is the same camera that's recording them, basically.
Yeah, the general idea is, this one sweet girl wants to be an idol, and she gets signed on to a talent agency and gets in with an idol group, but they're all a bunch of fucking rejects, and their production house is about to get demolished unless they get a certain amount of views or money or something.
It's 100 million
they decide
yen.
to do and so they're like, okay, well, you all are going to be idols, and you're also going to record a variety show or something like that.
Oh god.
Yeah, it's you're gonna be an idol group, and your shtick is gonna be a variety show. What was it, once every week? And it's just a little 5-minute segment or something like that. But each time their manager basically just comes up with another weird idea for them to do in order to try and get people to watch. I also find it interesting too, because it's they're all not necessarily idols. It's the one girl from the Sticks, our main character, she wants to be an idol. The others, it's there's a child actress that's just washed up now. There's there's the
wannabe musician.
A wannabe musician, but she hates other people, so she can't be in a band.
Right.
And then there's the model who's just way too introverted, and so won't actually do most modeling jobs that are given to her. So
yeah, they're all perfectly designed train wrecks.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that also seems kind of to be a theme for shows this year. There's just a lot of characters that are just train wrecks, which are I think easy to identify with.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was perfectly fine. I haven't really watched beyond the first episode, and I don't really intend to necessarily. Yeah, it was fun. I see the appeal of it, but it's not really my thing right now.
Yeah, the bottom line for this one is that it's very par for the course in a lot of ways, but it's fun, and so if you just wanted something fun, you can do that one. It's not necessarily high on my list of things to watch, but I was all right, well, this is nice.
That's a lot better than I expected from a name that has fruit tart in the name. Or from a show that has fruit tart in the name, rather. But yeah.
Yeah, it's really clearing a high bar there.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Were you like expecting something different out of it because of the name, like Kuma?
I don't know. Sometimes when things have weird names like that, I kind of get the impression that they just have the weird name just to be kind of quirky and to get you to watch it.
You're just like, why the fuck is this called fruit engaging. Tart? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, so why is it called fruit tart?
That's their idol group name.
Oh, okay. See, that actually makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's kind of gimmicky, but I like it. All right.
Yeah, it's literally within.
It's dumb watch bait.
Yeah, it's literally within the show. They're trying to make a gimmick so that people would watch them.
Oh, okay. That is kind of meta.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's astonishingly so.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I do like about it is that, like, compared to other shows like it, there are like small little moments of meta, like for instance, like whenever we get the introductions of the characters, it's like there's the manager's actually recording them, and then like at the end of the episode, they're watching their 5-minute segment whenever it's airing on TV, and they're like, "Man, that was kind of embarrassing." So
yeah, that makes sense. Interesting. I didn't watch it, but it sounds maybe interesting for one episode or so. I don't know.
Yeah. For everyone
that
else,
sounds how you really feel, Matt.
For everyone else, one episode. For Kyle, all episodes. Hotel Triago.
Okay. So Matt, what's something that you will watch beyond one episode then?
Yeah.
Bring something to this table. Play in the space with us. Come on, share.
Play in the space. I'm not playing in any spaces. Okay, so unsurprisingly, I was watching Tonikaku Kawaii.
Oh, fuck yeah, man.
And I just want to watch that show like all day. Forever.
I do too. Oh my god. Tonikawa is a abso-fucking-lute delight. What caught you about it, Matt? Because I'm interested to hear like what was the hook that really sunk into you.
Okay, so like the first episode was really interesting, but honestly, the second episode was so wild, like because I don't know what it really is about this show, but the way the characters bounce off of each other
works real well.
Just especially it works really well, but also like I was about to go to the moon over like some of the really obscure references they were making in the show. Like I was just like there was one instance where he's talking about our main character Nasa-kun, which is literally like the dumbest name in the world.
I love so much that his fucking name is NASA. I cannot get over it.
We want you to reach for the stars. We'll call you NASA. It's like, I hate you, parents. Why?
I feel like that is like I feel like that's kind of like something that would happen in reality, kind of. But yeah, so there was this moment where he was talking about like he was going into really obscure detail about like sleeping with his partner and like the space into their beds, like how much space they would take up in the bed, and there was like this huge comparison about like the centimeters, and it was really I wasn't really expecting this, but they had somehow like when they did that diagram of the screen with the measurements, they somehow used a Danganronpa reference, which I'm not even sure how that fits in the show.
Shitting me?
No, okay, let me show you.
This will be great audio.
Yeah, so this is like I was about to fucking scream. Okay, actually I did scream. I was like, why did they do this? Okay, so here.
And then they also had the amazing food reference.
Oh, it is. What the fucking shit? Are you kidding?
Like seriously? Okay. Like I'll have to put this.
Oh,
in the
what
podcast.
with like the hair and everything?
Yeah, no, like this is like a direct carbon copy.
Oh, okay.
Like the people that have seen Danganronpa are gonna know like exactly what I'm talking about here, but there's no way that this is not a reference.
Yeah.
Because it comes out of nowhere. Like they didn't talk about it. Like it's not like that kind of show to make a comedic reference and then like point out the reference, although it did do that in literally the next scene.
Yeah,
when they talk about something from Slam Dunk, but
Yeah.
Which was pretty funny.
They're actually, the show is astonishingly rooted in reality, because like when they were talking about going to the department store and they just said, you want to just go to Don Quixote, I was like, oh, y'all are actually going to an actual ass department store. Weird. Okay. Because that's an actual fucking department store chain in Japan. And I was like...
it really?
Yeah. It's actually fucking called Don Quixote. No joke.
Yeah,
So I was like, oh, that's fascinating. And it's a small, dumb detail, but I was just kind of astonished by, like, how specific it was. And how much it felt like, you know, it wasn't like a whack Danolds or something that kind of really pulls you out of the, you know, quote-unquote immersion of it all, if you will.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like again, it's a dumb small detail, but I appreciate it a lot.
Well, it's like even out of the name, something that I appreciated whenever I was reading through this manga that I'm loving to see now in the anime is this like commitment to like, yeah, the initial setup is fucking buck wild. It's just like, hey, will you marry me? And it's like, random person, sure, all right. And then he passes out from blood loss. It's there's a lot going on in that first few moments.
You leave out the love at first sight, runs after girl, gets the business end of a semi, and then asks, "Will you marry me?"
Gets the business end of a semi that she took the brunt of, but she's fine. Like, there's a lot of weird shit going on there.
Okay, but hold on. You were missing the most important part where, so he gets hit by a semi, she takes the brunt of the blow, she walks away, he decides, oh, I'm going to chase after her, and then goes after her, and then she goes and gets help after he finally catches up to her, she leaves again, and then he begins to chase after her again, and then passes out.
And like, it doesn't see her for 2 years.
Like, he is so committed. Like, this is like, this dude needs like a round of applause.
Yeah, NASA this is a fucking MVP.
Like, I think he might have like 2 brain cells, which, you know, maybe the truck incident, you know, brain trauma, maybe, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's one of those things that I'm just like, you know what? Good for you.
Oh yeah,
sure. Yeah. You're committed. I can respect that.
Yeah,
he has 2 brain cells, and they're both saying, "I love my wife."
Yeah, it's the 2 things that I like about this series is that the one thing is like once you get past the beginning, and then it's just like, okay, we're married. Now what? It's actually relatively like realistic to be like, okay, we're a newlywed couple. Well, we're going to need this and this. We may need like a little bit larger of an apartment, and we're gonna have to plan for the future. And it's just like all these like nice everyday like we just got married kind of things. That I really enjoy that as somebody who enjoys slice of life. But I especially enjoy that the main character is just like, this is my new norm, and I am dedicating my all to this person I love, and that's it. And I'm like, you are the dumbest rock in existence, but bless your heart, it's this big, it's 2 sizes too big.
Yeah. He, like, that's it. NASA is really endearing, and especially so when he's a big fucking dope, which is to say, all the time. Mm-hmm. Except for when he's talking about, like, math and shit, which he's astonishingly good at. He's very competent in those sorts of things. But like, man, this guy every episode just like, oh wow, she looks just like a wife. Oh wait, she is my wife. And like actual fucking quote from the 3rd episode.
I also She even says it a few times, like, well, that's because we are married. And he's like, oh yeah.
It's such a dumb joke.
Right.
But seeing it come out of him and the way he so earnestly delivers the line every time, I'm never going to get tired of it. I adore this dumb fuck.
There are so many ways that this show, it's such a simplistic plot, but at the same time, there's so many ways that it can be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of shows that can really have like such a broad scope that it just can make it that interesting. Like, I don't know, like, because there's some slice of life shows out there that don't have like, you know, anything except like a setting.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of like, despite that they have like this cool setting, like, I don't know, it just can't like get to that level of creativity with the comedy. And maybe that's what does it for the show, is just that the comedy is just peak and it's so good.
Yeah. I would add on to that by saying, like, the comedy is peak, it's so good, but so many of these sort of slice of life romance shows that we see are primarily, again, in like a middle school or high school setting where the whole thing is longing and pining and dancing around each other for 100+ episodes until we maybe get a resolution. And where Tonikawa really excels is that by episode 2, we're already past the fucking dating, past like anything else. It's like, oh fuck, we're married now. Okay, cool. So that fucking like SWAT team kicks down the door for all the possibilities of like different romantic hijinks that could possibly happen, because it is, again, skipping all of the bullshit of like will they, won't they, because it's they already have, and it is also skipping the forced school and student setting, because as adults that are outliving their own life, they can do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, and I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with those shows, but
oh no, definitely not.
It's one of those things that, like, when you tread on new ground, it definitely makes it, you know, more interesting. Like, it just in the regards of just, I mean, there's not many shows that I feel like, because I mean, sure, there's shows that involve like, because I think we talked about this before. But there's shows involving, like, I mean, look at Golden Time, for instance, which is about, you know, college students.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, you know, just because it has, you know, those kinds of characters doesn't really make it, like, what am I looking for? It doesn't make it completely, like, unique. It, like, the story doesn't feel unique, besides, you know, all the ghost shit, which will, you know, whatever.
Just because it has a different setting does not mean that it automatically escapes all the trappings and tropes of the type of show that it's surrounded by.
Right. And I guess this is a problem with romance shows, that, like, a lot of them don't delve into the, like, I think this is going back to what you were talking about, but they don't delve, like, past that pining stage of that. And it just kind of, I don't know, it's like breaking new ground, I guess. Like
it's a fresh perspective. It's kind of like how like Orimonogatari within like 3 episodes was just like, oh, okay, we're a couple now. Well, this is nice. Like, how do we be a couple? It's one of those like perspectives you don't typically see in romance, and so it's nice to actually see it presented. I did want to.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I did want to correct that. He is an adult. She is technically not an adult.
Yeah, I think she's 16, 17, something like that, and he's like 18.
Yeah. They mentioned that in the 2nd episode.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, it was that exact thing of just like, oh, they're just straight up like married, like to start off, and then how does that work? And how are they gonna work together through that? Like that's what initially interests me in the show in the first place, and I was like, yes, I want this. I want to see this. I also think that I also think it's such a great thing that, like, not only is our main character endearing, but the actual direction backs it up, in which, like, there's no like overt lewd scene or anything like that, and like our main character is not focused on like, oh, there's suddenly a woman in my apartment and things might get naughty. He's just like, oh my gosh, I've never dated a girl before and this is really new territory and I want to hold your hand, is that okay? And she's like, we're fucking married, and he's like, okay, great. Like, it's very endearing and innocent in its own way, that I think that's a lot nicer than if it like was just like, we're adults now, traversing those first adult struggles, and it's just like, no, we're not focused on that necessarily.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of another problem I have with like shows focused around like adult characters, because if you think about it, there was that short show with the husband and wife, the Danaganani or whatever. And one of my main complaints about that show was, there was a lot of sex jokes. Like it was like one every episode. Yeah. And I was like okay, can there be a show that like where the couple is married and that's not like all the focus is on? Like,
it's not the shtick.
Like, and I feel like shows involving adult characters, like a writer kind of gets into this thing where they write adult characters and like, what do adults like? Sex jokes, sex. Okay, let's put that in the story. And it's just kind of like, I don't know, it rubs me the wrong way. But
it's like, motherfucker, you are an adult. Why do you not know how to write an adult?
Right.
Yeah, so, it's just frustrating when I see stories like that. Yeah. And I'm just like, which is what I mean. I still do like the pining stories, like the normal romance settings, because there's none of that's really like brought up. But then like this show doesn't do it doesn't have. I know it's kind of like what we already talked about. They're not like fully adults, because I mean, well, one is, but it doesn't involve any of that stuff. So it's like like I like this show.
Yeah, I
guess that's the moral.
Sorry.
Oh, it doesn't have any of that, the typical adult humor, I guess. Mm-hmm. And it makes it more palatable to me. Mm-hmm. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and it feels more true to like the main character, and what he actually wants out of this is like an honest relationship.
Right.
Yeah, and maybe a little bit more realistic. I don't really know. I'm not going to make that call. Right. But it feels less, like an adult trying to write adults, and more like someone trying to write just realistic characters.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't even think that I would really even describe this as like adults, because they're not. And if we're trying to argue that, we're kind of kidding ourselves here. Like,
no, I mean,
it's really like the way I view it is a story of young love without, again, the kind of expected, again, school fetters of that. And again, like, that's not to say that that's necessarily bad. Like, Nisekoi still fucking slaps. Love that shit. I'll watch it anytime. There's plenty of really great school romance stories and stuff like that. Mm. But it's nice to see a young love story and a young romance story that is not coming from that specific angle again, because there's already a fucking billion of them.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if you want a good adult series that's not just all fucking sex jokes, I mean, like, that's what we've got, like, Wodakoi for, or stuff like, Recovery of an MMO Junkie, or other series that are, like, real-ass adult romances, or Science Fell in Love, So I Tried to Prove It. Like, all great adult-centered romances that aren't just, like, haha, big dick, eggplant, hee. So there's a lot of good options for that out there. And while this isn't like an adult romance or anything like that, I really appreciate the perspective it's coming from, because like you don't really see this from, again, a young romance kind of perspective where they just kind of cut past all the shit.
Yeah, right. It's ignore the naughty thing, and what does it actually mean to be in that relationship, and to be also like basically living together in that situation. In this case, they're married, so like it's like just ignore the sex stuff for a second, and let's just look at like what actually matters to the relationship, and that's what I like.
Yeah. That was a really a long way of making the same point that I think that Zach made like 20 minutes ago, but yeah, I agree. I feel like I could have just like taken out everything I just said and just said I agree, and then we could have moved on.
You're good.
But
no, it's okay. And I like talking about this shit because I think there's a lot of really good stuff that it does, and I think that people should absolutely be watching it, if for no other reason but to hear one of the most banging OPs of the season.
Dude, it's
also
good.
To see NASA get like relentlessly roasted by his childhood friend over how small his hog is.
after we make all those statements about like yeah, they leave the sex jokes alone. I mean, but it's like it's one character, and the character is just like an asshole. So
fucking gremlin.
Yeah.
It doesn't go past that, so it's
it never goes past that.
Yeah, no. Like, no, it doesn't feel weird or anything. It feels like, again, two childhood friends taking the piss out of each other.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fucking good. I'm astonished by how much I like that.
Yeah. Matt liked that.
Yeah, there's a number of shows that I was astonished by how much I liked it, and Matt, you mentioned Danganronpa, and so that immediately made me think of Akudama Drive.
Yes,
because it is the next thing from Mr. Danganronpa himself, and oh my fucking god, have either of you watched this at all?
I watched the first episode, and
holy,
I had a lot of different feelings about it, but I was like, you know what? That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'll watch that.
Yeah.
What's the English title?
Akudama Drive.
Akudama Drive.
Oh, all right. Well, fuck me.
Yeah.
No, I actually haven't watched that. I don't think.
I mean, I think the best pitch I can give is future cyberpunk Japan. Some girl doesn't pay for a meal because she was going to return the cash that she had, and the place only took cash, so she got arrested for fraud. And basically, through a long series of events, got tossed in with a bunch of hyper criminals to do the biggest heist jobs in all of Cyber Japan.
Yo, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, it is batshit insane. And what I love most about it is, one, the music is just unfucking believable. The sound direction is perfection. The aesthetic of it, like
the aesthetic is wonderful,
is fucking peerless. Like, and Matt, one of the things I love most is when they transition scenes, they just slap different buildings in and like assemble it together instead of just like, fading to another scene or something like that.
Or
it's such a small thing, but it gives such a distinctive personality to the show, and it's, oh my fucking god, the show is so stylish, and the fights are so well choreographed, and man, it's just fun. Oh my god, it's so stylish. I didn't even know that this was airing until 2 days ago. Like, I had no fucking idea until like yesterday, and I watched it. I was like, what the fuck have I been missing? How have I not been watching this the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, I have no idea what this is, and I'm really upset now with the way that you guys are describing it that I have not watched it.
Yeah. Don't exactly go in like expecting to get invested in a story necessarily.
Okay.
But expect to get drawn in by the very strong cast of characters and the
style?
Again, the
presentation is really good.
Yeah, it is. That's the thing that pulls me so much. It's so fucking good. It's just so fun to watch. Like, it's just a good time. And there's so much ridiculous shit in it, and I just really don't care. Like, I don't care if some stuff doesn't make sense, or if it's like, that was definitely an ass pull, because I don't fucking care. It's fun.
Yeah, like, there is some wild-ass stuff that happens, and I'm pretty sure, like, half the characters in the show are broken and doesn't make any sense. But you know what?
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter, because if you're, like, there's no way that you can care about any of that if you just look at the presentation and look at the, the interesting, like, premise as a whole and the setting and stuff. Like, it's just, there's so much going on, and honestly, I'm just in for whatever ride it's going to take me on.
Yeah.
The fun ride just reminds me of as if you guys were describing what I thought about Promare. It's just like, I don't care if there's weird plot holes. I'm really not interested. I'm just having a good time.
That's really about the best comparative measure I can say. Not that it's anything like Promare,
right?
But in terms of like how I have approached it so far, like that's to a T. Like, I mean, The characters are fun. The setting's fun. The whole thing is just, again, absolutely shot for shot gorgeous. I don't give a shit. I will watch as much of this as you throw at me. God, it's good.
It's amazing.
All right, I gotta watch that.
Yeah. If you were missing Akudama Drive this season, you're missing one of the best shows that's aired in recent memory for me. Super fun.
Crazy.
Yeah. I don't know if anything is quite as high octane as Akudama Drive, but I would probably say that if there's anything that comes close or anything that about rivals it, it would be Jujutsu Kaisen.
Jujutsu Kaisen. Oh, I see it. The Mappa show.
One of the Mappa shows.
One of the Mappa shows. There's more Mappa shows? What the heck?
There's more Mappa shows. There's also Taisou Samurai, Gymnastics Samurai, which I'll talk about later.
Okay.
Yeah. Mappa is fucking flexing on all of us with Jujutsu Kaisen.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck me, dude. It's like, I know this has been a highly anticipated one because folks love the manga because it's one of Shonen Jump's darlings right now. I mean, it's a very shonen premise. You know, very strong boy gets caught up in a supernatural incident and develops supernatural powers by consuming a cursed relic, and he's whisked off to a school for psychics to exorcise demons and shit, or curses as they're called. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. Like, the story's fine. You know, again, it's Shonen Jump sort of stuff. Like, if you've read a kind of standard, like, this is one of the big Shonen Jump stories, you've probably read something like this. But where it really shines is, kind of like with Akudama Drive, the characters are great, the presentation is solid, the whole aesthetic package is so fucking fun from start to finish. And, oh my god, if nothing else, do yourself a favor and watch the OP for Jujutsu Kaisen. It is one of the most gorgeous goddamn things I've seen in ages. It is astonishingly good. And I would say even the actual show itself is also pretty solidly beat for beat gorgeous. You can really tell that Mappa brought their A game for this and their A team for it. Because, oh my god. The fight choreo is great. The action sequences are great. But even the downtime, the characters are just fun. They have serious personality. They don't feel bland or two-dimensional or anything. And more than anything else, I really appreciate, like, the fun I've had in it so far, but I appreciate how broad and open it feels and how available it feels for expansion in terms of story going forward. Yeah. If you like shonen battle stuff and you want one that is pretty high octane and high in terms of production value and stuff, I would really recommend you give this a shot. It would be very worth your time to at least watch that first episode.
I'm gonna go watch the opening.
Yeah, you should do that because it's
I
well
love a
worth
good
it.
opening.
Huh?
I said I love a good opening.
Yeah,
so,
it's gorgeous.
Yeah, that looks interesting. I'm not typically into shonen battle stuff, but you know, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's bottom line, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I appreciate it as being a pretty fucking excellent example of what a shonen battle anime can be.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely, like, in terms of like shonen shows, I think a lot of them get like bad raps because like Black Clover, for instance. Remember when Black Clover aired, which I guess it's still airing.
Yeah, it's still going.
But a lot of people are like, it's just a typical shonen anime. So yeah, I think a lot of them get like this reputation. And I mean, if you have an example like Jujutsu Kaisen that's, you know, like excellent at doing what it does, then I think that maybe there's a way that it could break like those stigmas.
Yeah,
for sure.
I could be wrong, but didn't Demon Slayer start off as a bit of a sleeper for like the first little bit of the show? Where
yeah,
kind of.
where people were just like, it's another shonen.
bit.
I'll get around to it at some point.
I don't know if I'd say. I don't know if I'd go that far, but a lot of people were just
like
talking about the.
necessarily.
I would say that a lot more people were talking about the animation quality of Demon Slayer before they talked about how awesome it was.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Because
I
that
think
was also a Shonen Jump series.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. So. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in Shonen Jump, and the quality varies greatly, and so there's a lot of stuff that gets adapted that's pretty all right, like Black Clover, and then there's also really astonishingly good stuff that has yet to get adapted. I'm looking at you, Chainsaw Man, but I'm not holding my breath. But yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen's a lot of fun. If you like that kind of stuff, give it a shot. If you just want to see a very pretty show, it's at least worth watching the OP, I would say.
Nice.
Yeah.
You want to get to the other Mappa show?
I guess I'll touch on Taisou Samurai. I'm assuming neither of y'all watched this.
I watched the first episode.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. You've been saying Samurai. It's not Samurai like I thought it was. It's Samurai.
Yeah, it is. It is Samurai, but I see a lot of it localized as Taisou Samurai, and like it kind of flops between it. I don't really know. I just call it Taisou Samurai. It's How
many episodes have you seen? Just the first one?
No, I've seen all the episodes that have come out so far.
Okay.
So 2, I guess.
Yeah, 2 episodes.
Yeah, it feels like it's been 3 episodes. Okay, so here's the thing. I am happy to watch a Mappa original series. I think Mappa has done extraordinarily well with most of their original productions. And, I mean, I adored Yuri on Ice. And it was a very cool, non-standard sports show. And so when I heard that there was a, male gymnastics series that Mappa was doing, I was like, oh my god, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. And I watched the preview, and it was about, this single dad who was a widower who was trying to raise his young daughter and was aging out of the competitive men's gymnastics scene. And I was like, oh my god. That is like, mwah, mwah, mwah. Oh my god, give me that fucking drama. And what I got was retired, but not retired, single dad gymnast who's kind of a fucking dumbass, who takes a ninja who's on the run from the feds into his home.
So that it doesn't get deported,
And there's an exotic South American bird that speaks fluent like Japanese in their home, and the grandmother lives with them, and she has ties to gangs in Ikebukuro, and it's so fucking much in one premise. Don't get me wrong, it's a heartwarming show. It's sweet. I think it's really nice to see our main dude do his best to try to raise his daughter and do what's best for their family.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't help but, and this is the weirdest fucking thing, but it feels like they're taking elements of, it feels like if they took, Samurai Flamenco and, Suritama and, elements of Yuri on Ice and slapped them all together in a weird way. Yeah. And it just feels I don't know. It just feels like they're trying to cram so much into this thing that I don't know, man. I'm happy to keep watching it, but it's by no means at the top of my list. Just because there's so much going on.
That's interesting. I hadn't seen an example of a story in a while where they've taken a lot of elements and tried to make a story out of it, but also at the same time, are the elements almost conflicting with each? Maybe they're not conflicting with each other, but maybe they're just unnecessary. Which is it?
That's the thing for me, because I feel like if it was just this story about this guy who is, again, in his late 20s, still trying to be an Olympic gymnast, And it's
with a personal injury, yeah.
Yeah, with a personal injury, and again, being a widower and trying to raise a young daughter by himself. Like, I appreciate the drama in that. And that's, again, that's a story that was presented in the previews.
Like,
and
that's almost a lot right there, just to tackle all of that in one show.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
if you think about it, that's already also almost taking, like, what was that show? Himagoro? No, not Himagoro.
Yeah,
it's almost like taking that show and putting it with ping pong already.
Yeah,
like, that, just that
kinda.
plot line right there. And then you're telling me there's all this other additional shit that's added in as well? Like, that's
crazy. It's all the bizarre stuff definitely works to set this show apart, but I don't necessarily feel like it's a good thing, because I don't feel as though all of these weird, quirky things, like, need to be there. Like, okay, so better way, it feels like they're trying to take a sports show, but like, they're also, it feels like they're trying to incorporate elements, weirdly enough, of like Sarazanmai in it, because it just has that kind of weird, quirky quality. But it's not an Ikuhara show, and because it's not an Ikuhara show, the weird, quirky stuff that Map has been doing in it to try to put it in here doesn't feel like it fits. Because, like, again, if it was just a straight up, like, sports drama or heartwarming, sports family thing, like, yeah, I would be all in for it. But I keep getting into episode after episode, and I'm like, okay, but like, what are you gonna do this time? It just feels tonally weird, is all, I guess.
Oh, I'm sorry, Matt. You go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna make a correction to what I said. The show I was thinking of was Kikushi Godo. For some reason, I don't know. I keep thinking of the characters Hime and then putting Hime Godo. That's a completely different show.
It's a very different show.
Sorry.
From Hime
very
Godo.
different. Yes, it's very different. Anyway, continue.
For me, it was like when I first got started on the first episode, because I was going in blind. I was like, all right, he's taking care of his kid and he's struggling. Oh, he's a widower. That's very sad. He has this personal injury he's struggling with. I'm like, oh, the bird's kind of quirky, but that's all right. I've seen some weirder things. But it wasn't until he actually, like, because he takes his daughter on a like trip to go.
It's like basically Tokyo Disneyland almost.
Yeah, it's like a Tokyo Disneyland.
It's like a samurai ninja theme sort of thing.
Yeah, it's like if you went to a Rin's fair, but in Japan.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And so like everybody's dressed up as like samurai and like in of the time, and then they have a ninja show. And that was when everything just kind of went for the worse for me. Because this I don't know if it says, because I've only seen the first episode, but like he's somebody from another country is being a ninja here, and he's just this quirky weird dude that just like stalks them and follows them home, and he's like, I'm gonna live here now. And then he like constantly just gets in the way of the father trying to actually get through, like, listen, I'm going through a rough time and I want you to know that, daughter, here, we'll get through this together. And it just keeps getting interrupted because it's like, look, I'm weird and wacky. And it's like, that's not the show I want.
Yeah. To be fair though, like, it's also not like our gymnast boy is trying to do much to stop it either, because he has even less brain cells than any of the other characters we've worked with so far this season.
Which is also a bit odd. It's very strange that they decided to go for the route of this like very stupid dude, and I'm just like, why though?
It's just like, I wouldn't even say he's like stupid per se, but it's just like he can't read a room, and he just doesn't. I don't know, man. It's weird. He's stubborn to a point where it's like he ignores everything else around him. And I mean, like, if they explore that in any meaningful, like, character development way as it goes forward, then, like, that could be interesting, I guess. Yeah. But for the starting 2 episodes, for that to be a consistent thing, like, it's because I mean, like, in the second episode, he's like, look, I only got where I am so far because I had people helping me all the time. I'm not the greatest at much else besides gymnastics. And so, like, that in and of itself makes that an interesting trait. But they have to do something with it. They can't just mention, like, I can't do much else, and I'm kind of dumb. I've had other people help me. So, unless he grows from that, it just, So, but again, there's only 2 episodes out, so who knows?
I do agree with you. It definitely seems like a show where they, like, it's like as if the board meeting, they just kept on saying yes and just put it in the show. I wish that they would have, like, split this into, like, 3 or 4 different shows rather than just having it as, like, this compilation of several different ideas.
Yeah. Like, I don't mean to say I'm going to drop this thing. I'm still going to watch it, because I still think there's promise here at the bottom of it all. I just wish some of these weird extraneous details had just been kind of...
Yeah, it kind of sounds like at the end of the day, like, even if you continue with the show and it ends up being, pretty decent, at the same time, it's still going to be at the back of your mind and being like, so why did we have those? It's kind of like it's not the cream of the crop sort of shows, like some of the others that we've talked about on this podcast or in the past.
Yeah.
It's just one of those, this could have been better sort of things, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen it, so...
And it still could be a good show. It's just it's very odd, and it's not easy to sink your teeth into the first couple of episodes.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's fine. It goes pretty quickly, but there are times where it's just like, Jesus Christ, what am I watching?
Yeah.
So I think in terms of stuff that, like, definitely has promise, but I'm still not, like, sold on it. Did either of y'all watch Assault Lily Bouquet?
No.
I was actually going to start watching it today, and I just didn't get a chance to before the podcast.
Okay. I mean, like, I've watched it, and I'm caught up on it so far, because I was like, oh, cool, new show from Shaft. And I don't know, man. So it feels like it definitely feels like Shaft is taking some heavy inspiration in some way from, like, Madoka Magica, because it's definitely a young girls are being weaponized to fight giant monsters and shit that are threatening humanity,
okay.
But in a less, like, it's not quite as wild and in the shadows as Madoka is, because, like, it's literally... There's these giant monsters called the Huge that are, threatening humanity. They're literally called the Huge. Don't ask me why.
Hold on. Stop right there. Are they huge?
They are pretty darn massive.
Okay. Yeah. Well, at least they got something right. All right.
They're biggins. And, like, I think part of what made Madoka work as, like, a kind of dark, tense sort of girls fighting thing was that it also had a very small cast to it, and so you got very invested in a very small amount of characters. I learned that Assault Lily Bouquet is part of a mixed media sort of thing that they're looking to do.
Okay.
So it's not just a show, it's probably going to be like a mobile game and a line of figures and a bunch of other shit. And as such, there are no less than, like, 20 fucking girls that they introduce in the first episode.
Oh gosh. Okay.
And I'm like, oh my god. It's like you all decided to do an Idol Master, but take out all the singing and dancing, make them thick as hell, and give them big fucking weapons to fight shit with. And it's like, okay, that's fine, I guess. It's very fun to look at in terms of, it's a Shaft show. It's very pretty. And again, the fight stuff is pretty nice. But honestly, even though it's a Shaft show, it looks less like a Shaft show than fucking Higurashi does, because Higurashi from this season has the character designer from Bakemonogatari, and also it's not the same director, but goddamn, it looks like the same director in Higurashi, because they use a lot of typical Shaft cuts, which are weirdly kind of missing from Assault Lily Bouquet. So even though I'm watching the actual Shaft show this season, I'm like, it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this before, maybe it was on the last podcast, but I remember reading an article a while back where a lot of Shaft's staff
split off.
They split off from Shaft and went to other studios, and probably Higurashi is probably seeing some of that.
Yep.
So that's probably why the Shaft shows don't look like Shaft.
Yeah.
And I don't know their whole production situation. I don't know, maybe they're outsourcing this show a whole lot, or maybe they've got like some kind of like C team on it. Like, not saying that in terms of quality, but like, you know, like the backup team. I don't know, because of all these people splitting off. So maybe they're just, you know, short staffed.
Yeah, and I don't think it's even necessarily an issue of it being short staffed, because like, again, the whole production, like, you can tell a lot went into this. It looks great. It sounds great. From a tactile perspective, in terms of overall aesthetic, it's great. But
well, what I meant by that was just maybe they're outsourcing more to other studios, so it's gonna look good, but it's just not made by Shaft. Does that make sense?
No. I know what you mean. Like, it's definitely still a Shaft show, but it doesn't have that Shaft feel to it.
Right.
Yeah, and that's how I would sum it up. It is a Shaft show. It doesn't necessarily feel so much like one. And I mean, like, it's fine. There's a whole lot of, you know, Yuri bait, and there's a whole lot of, you know, girls like, oh, I lost my partner in a gruesome way in a previous battle, and now I'm trying my best to get out of it. And they're all at an academy to raise the Lilies, who are, again, all young women that are trained up to, again, just fight giant monsters. And I mean, like, I don't know, man. It has this, it's trying to balance this kind of like cute schoolgirl atmosphere kind of thing with a more brooding, serious tone at times that just feels like fine, I guess. It's okay. But again, like, I also feel like with it being a mixed media project, I feel like there are literally no stakes, because if the point is to provide a shitload of girls for people to identify with, there's not going to be any narrative stakes. Like, they're not going to fucking kill one of them off at this point. They've already killed a couple off, you know, in terms of, like, you know, backstory, so that's already said and done. But I just look at this and I'm like, why should I care at this point? Because it's been 3 episodes and you haven't really done much to establish why I should care about these characters. Because, again, they have done a lot of shows about, you know, young women being thrust in these wild fucking situations, and they have to really develop themselves in a short span of time, and you see a lot of character growth. And it's just, I'm just not feeling it at this point.
So I'm thinking what I'm getting from this is maybe this show is riding on the same sort of success that other shows have had in the past. Like, I'm not saying Madoka Magica like started this, because there's a lot of other shows that have done this before, but it's riding on this thing of like this, I don't know, like this partial grimdark setting. Like, there's a lot of shows that have had like, oh, like girls fighting, and then there's a dark undertone to it. Like Yuki Yuna is a good example. Granbaum is an example. And there's other shows, like even like the ones that were not as good, like I think it's like Asuka Magical Girl Spec Ops or something, and like Magical Girl Raising Project. Like, these are all shows that kind of are in the same vein as what you're describing. Like, there's this group of girls, and there's like a slightly dark undertone. There's a lot of characters in these shows. And they're all kind of riding off that same Madoka Magica vibe. But I don't think they're like that show at all.
They're definitely not, because there's all these derivatives that try to work with that and break off from the formula and just try to like get, as you say, the feel or the vibe of it.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to say that they're all trying to be Madoka Magica, because I think that's not necessarily correct, because they're all like not magical girls. Like, there's completely different sort of like, but I would almost like to say that Madoka Magica kind of created another genre of shows, but it's not like Madoka Magica. Like, Madoka Magica
that's
is
exactly
part of,
what I was going to say.
Like Madoka Magica is part of this other genre, but other shows wanted to be like Madoka Magica and created a whole nother genre. Like,
it set this kind of subgenre or like this subtone of shows, maybe.
Yeah.
Like shows trying to fit a certain atmosphere or idea. And like I honestly, it sounds really weird, but I sit here and I watch Assault Lily Bouquet and I'm like, honestly, if I want to watch something that looks and feels like this but does it better, I kind of just want to watch Review Starlight again.
Yeah, I guess.
Which is weird to say.
Man, but like
because they're very different shows.
Yeah,
but it's doing the same thing in a lot of ways because again, it has
kind of
Review Starlight has a huge cast of characters. Like not enormous, but it has a big cast of characters.
Pretty
and
large.
Again, like it balances the, cute schoolgirl shit with, again, a pretty gnarly undertone. I mean, it's not like, Mami-chan getting her head knocked off in the 3rd episode.
But it's still, there will be only one that's in charge of the Review Starlight, and, like, their wish is granted. And it's like, that's big, especially whenever you realize how dark the Review Starlight is.
Yeah, and I guess it's just, like, I feel like I expected more out of Shaft. And, I mean, like, it might be harsh of me to say this at, like, the 3rd episode, but the fact of the matter is, like, every other series I've watched by Shaft has gripped me from the get-go, and for me to be at the 3rd episode and still be thinking, like, like, it just, I don't know, man. It doesn't have the power that it used to.
By the way, I went and looked it up. The Assault Lily multimedia project is a toy line. So that's what it's being based off of. When it says multimedia project, it's a toy line.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so there's toy figurines. Apparently there's the Assault Lily class and the Custom Lily class. But that's the origin of it, in case you wanted to know.
Huh.
So they're selling figures.
Is this the first?
Okay.
Is this the first of their projects that they're putting out for this multimedia project?
Yes, actually, it was even before the anime. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. Also, the opening is apparently by Reza Swelen, which was created by the Bang Dream franchise, which is kind of funny.
The opening is a fucking banger. It's super good.
Well,
it's great.
Reza Swelen's pretty good. So
yeah.
Just wanted to throw that out there. That's my Bang Dream shill for now. Just happened to notice that.
I don't know. Assault Lily's on this, like, I haven't dropped it necessarily, but it's like on my borderline here. Like I'll probably give it another episode or so, but I'm just kind of disappointed. I expected more, and maybe that's my fault, but for putting expectations on it. But even then, if I didn't have expectations for it, I still don't think I would be that jazzed about it, just because, kind of like we just said, there's a lot of other shows that take this formula and do it a lot better than this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think even like Granbelm was a pretty highly regarded show that was slept on. So, that was a couple seasons ago.
Yeah, I'm still kicking myself that I didn't watch that because I heard nothing but incredible shit about it.
Yeah, I heard it was very good. So I guess that's something to consider if you like the show or dislike it.
Yeah.
You want to talk about Higurashi? I know we just we touched on it, so
I actually.
Oh, do I ever?
I actually kind of stayed away from this because I was it's because I was kind of scarred on Higurashi whenever I was a lot younger, so I just I haven't gotten around to this yet.
I mean, as someone who has watched everything that's out so far and is completely caught up, it is still extremely gnarly.
Yeah.
Like gory?
Yeah, with this most recent episode? Boy.
Oh, man.
Oh, God. I mean, what is there to really say about Higurashi?
You want violence? You want small children doing the violence? Well, there you go.
I mean, so Studio Passione, again, nabbed the character designer for Bakemonogatari, and god damn it, I looked at it and I was like, is this a Shaft show? But it's not. These are the folks that brought us interspecies reviewers, so absolute fucking kings.
They're super new too, aren't they? As a studio,
they're fairly new, like relatively speaking. They've been around for a couple years.
Oh, okay.
They also did the infamous Rail Wars.
Yeah. Yeah. So they, yeah.
That was back in 2014, by the way.
Yeah. Man, that feels like so long ago.
Yeah.
Anyway. I don't know, man. Like, I mean, Higurashi is something that, you know, I always heard fucking whispers about for ages, and it was like, girls that look like they're melting stab each other, and I'm like, oh, that's gnarly. I'll watch that at some point, and I just never got around to it. So when I found out they were putting one out here, I was like, oh, cool. And then, you know, I found out that it was a stealth sequel thing, which is interesting, because I thought it was a reboot.
That was a surprise to a lot of people.
Yeah, but it's not. And so, despite the fact that it's a sequel, I really have to give this thing a lot of credit. Because, again, despite that it's a sequel to a quite old series, it does an excellent job of being accessible to folks who have zero fucking context for this series. I know nothing about Higurashi, but I am having no trouble processing it and getting shit where it's coming from here. Like, it is extraordinarily accessible for me.
That's really interesting. Because there was a little bit of discussion going around saying if you should even try to watch this before you watch the other series or read the visual novel or whatever.
Like, just to see if you'll, like, get what's going on in this series?
Yeah. Some people were saying, oh no, like, you shouldn't watch this because it spoils something. Or, like, I don't know. Some people were saying it, like, ruined the feel of the series or something like that. Like,
I mean,
I don't know. I think it's maybe some people are just, like... I feel like it's kind of like the same people that say Fate is ruining the series if you watch Unlimited Blade Works first. It's kind of the same vibe I was getting. Like, it's not like a spoiler, but some things will be ruined for you if you try to, like, backtrack and read it. Like, so well, I guess...
oh, no, sorry, you go on. I'm interrupting.
I was just gonna say that, I don't know, I feel like maybe some older fans, like, just view it this way because they, like, had some experiences with the original and were like, oh man, it's so good, and then they try to get into, like, you know, the newer franchises, and they're like, oh, hold on, like, maybe you shouldn't do that because you need to experience the other thing first. And I mean, like, if we look at it realistically here, like, the purpose of a reboot is to try to get new people interested in the franchise, right? So
right. Yeah.
So it is kind of a strange decision that they would like kind of pitch Higurashi as a sequel. But at the same time, I don't think that should stop people from watching it. So, in that regard, it sounds like, from the way you're describing it anyway, it sounds like maybe they're succeeding in that way.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that's the thing. Because there's definitely some stuff that happens in the first episode or so where, like, you know, I watched that, I was like, oh, that's probably important to the core story, and I would probably have more context for that if I had seen the original. But honestly, right. I don't care, because, like, the fact of the matter is, I think that it is the mark of a good show or a good series where even if it is something that is relying in part on information presented in a previous iteration of it, it is still able to communicate a full story to a new audience without requiring people to do, like, billions of years of homework kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Especially like, for a sequel that's coming out, like, decades after the other one.
Yeah. And so it does a really good job of presenting it as very much its own thing. And so, like, obviously, again, I can't speak to, like, whether or not you should watch, you know, any other Higurashi stuff or read it, because, again, I don't have any context. But I can say, as someone who has, again, zero fucking context, I did not feel as though there was anything that was, like, out of place or something that felt like I was missing something crucial to really get this. Like, it does such a good job of being this weird, self-contained, really unsettling horror series. And I love it for that. It's so good. It does such a great job of having this consistent, like, low buzz and hum and undertone of unease throughout every episode that finally builds and builds and builds and just gets wilder as it goes. I adore it. It's great.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting.
It's supposed to be one of those like great horror series. It's just, man, I got hit so hard as a kid by something that I was like, I wasn't expecting it, and so I was like, and so I just have these lingering like reservations about actually getting started on the series. I do want to do it, however.
Yeah, no, I feel you, and I don't blame you for not necessarily wanting to like get into it, because like if you're squeamish, this is probably not going to be the thing for you, because there's a lot of talk about and sometimes alluded to like dismemberment and gore and a bunch of pretty horrendous shit. So like, again, if that kind of stuff is not something you are good with, I would recommend you go elsewhere. But it's good. I mean, again, that's the thing. I appreciate it as a horror series, and not because it is like doing spooks 100% of the time, but because it is consistently building an atmosphere and an environment that makes me unsettled at all turns. And so when the real horror really comes, it has shaken me up prior to that, and it makes the experience all the better, and they don't have to resort to jump scares or any stupid shit like that.
That's wild.
It's like the actual terror that makes up great horror.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very appreciated.
I crave that. So
Matt,
I don't know what
you crave that.
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
I like that in a show.
In a show,
the
okay.
feeling since the okay. Yeah, I just think that's something shows have a really hard time of doing. And I'm glad Higurashi can do it well, apparently.
Yeah, I feel like, especially with anime, I feel like anime has a very difficult time with horror, and
I kind of feel that way too.
It's very, like, I was talking with Morgan about this this past week, how so few shows really get horror, and hilariously enough, we just finished watching through Shiki, and man, does that show nail horror, because it's not like a scary sort of show, but it's another one of those things where it builds again an atmosphere and a sense of tension, and also it builds a psychological kind of terror at all turns. Yeah, and it's great for it.
After seeing Shiki, yeah, I would definitely agree. There is that show is maybe, I don't know, I haven't seen Higurashi, but it's a similar thing, but it's not exactly the same thing. Like, it's maybe not unsettling, but it gives you there's definitely a psychological part to that.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, like, because like when we were watching through Shiki, all I could think about was Higurashi, because of the parallels of like really unsettling shit happening in a small rural like countryside town, and how these sorts of things of like weird rumors and horrific incidents kind of like crop up in the public consciousness, and how that reflects on like person who has a status of outsider and shit. I don't know. It was very, very fun. I really appreciate it a lot. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder how people that have seen the other Higurashi, I wonder if that enhances their experience watching this one then? Like, I was thinking about this. Like, yeah. Like, maybe there's a completely different experience between someone that goes into it the first time and someone that's watched all the others and going into it. Not that there's not that there's a better or worse one. It's maybe a different experience.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm sure that there's definitely, again, some prior knowledge that I have no fucking idea about that would blow my mind at some point. but
like, what if it
I don't
makes
know.
it more unsettling that if you've seen the prequels and you know what's coming, like maybe that adds a extra layer of dread or something. I don't know.
Right.
Just something I was thinking about.
The way that I usually think of it is that, like, you can know that Vader is Luke's father, but that's not going to fuck up, like, watching through, like, 4, 5, and 6 of Star Wars. Like, it's cool, and it's a neat and unique thing, and maybe that got spoiled for you, but, like, that shouldn't be the linchpin of, like, the entire series.
Well,
right.
Yeah. I don't think it's necessarily like a concept of like spoilering, but sometimes I think that having a spoiler revealed to you can create a different sort of sensation. Like
yes.
Just knowing what something's, like knowing, oh god, something's going to happen, and I don't know when it's going to happen, creates that extra layer that I was talking about.
Yeah,
for sure.
I've experienced that multiple times because, like, I've walked in on, like, my mom watching something in the family room, and it's like, oh, what's this? And she tells me what it is, and I end up accidentally watching the last 30 minutes of a movie, and then it's like I go back and watch it, and I'm just like, okay, well, how did we get to the last 30 minutes of the movie? And for some movies that are, like, a little bit more thriller or anything like that, that can be very interesting to actually know, like, who the killer is. And then since you know that already, you're actually seeing as the plot, like, develops.
Yeah, it's a completely different experience. Yeah.
Completely different experience, yeah.
Interesting how media can do that.
It is for sure. So I can at the very least recommend that you watch Higurashi if you haven't seen it before, because I can't speak to an experience otherwise. But honestly, I feel like that, objectively speaking, as its own thing, it is great. So
good.
Highly recommended.
Nice. Gonna have to delve into that.
Yep.
Higurashi is an odd one to come back from.
Okay, well, I mean, there's definitely some other dark shows this season, I would say.
Did anybody see Ikebukuro Westgate Park?
That is not at all what I was going to say in terms of dark shows this season.
What?
But yes, I have seen it.
Oh, okay, because I haven't seen it, so I was just wondering. The premise seemed a little bit on the darker side of, like, a more interesting crime thriller thing. Is it not? Well, that's depressing.
Nope, it is not that. It's not that at all.
That's immensely disappointing.
Have you seen Durarara? Because if you've seen Durarara, you're going to like Ikebukuro Westgate Park.
Okay, I actually have not seen Durarara yet.
Okay. The easiest way... we're here now, so I'm going to talk about it. Matt, have you seen it?
No, I actually thought you said Ikebukuro was a skate park at first. And I was very confused. I was like, God, it was a skate park? What kind of show is that? Is that about, like, skateboarders? Like,
yeah, it's like a crime thriller where they're all, like, skateboarding over these sick ramps in order to get to the
That's what I thought maybe it was.
You know what? I'd watch it.
Okay, so to keep this from being Zach book reports about every show this season, I'm going to try to keep this brief. Ikebukuro Westgate Park is a really fun, episodic gang hijinks sort of series. It's about gangs in Ikebukuro. Yeah. And there are two major factions present in Ikebukuro. There are two color gangs. There's a blue color gang and a red color gang. The red color gang is like the newer one that's coming in. But we kind of follow this one guy whose name is escaping me. Fuck, hold on a minute.
You got it, Boo.
You're editing this one, so just cut this part out.
Would it be Makoto Majima?
Yeah. So, like, we're kind of following this really interesting character, Makoto Majima, who is completely, like, he's not actually a member of a gang in Ikebukuro, but he kind of runs in all the different gang circles as kind of like an intermediary. Yeah, as that sort of thing. So it's very interesting, and it's so far episodic in nature. We're not looking at any overarching, like, long-running stories or things like that. We've run the gamut of, like, busting a drug ring to, you know, cracking down on a company that is pushing inhumane working conditions on its minimum wage workers.
Interesting.
To hiring the gang to be a bodyguard for a YouTube content creator who is being threatened by another group of YouTube content creators. It's very fascinating to see how they do a widespread of things in the show. It feels a lot like this interesting sort of scenario playground, if you will. They set up this idea of, we're just working in all of Ikebukuro, wild shit happens in Ikebukuro, let's see what we can do with it. It's fun, the characters are really charismatic, it's a Doga Kobo show.
That's surprising.
It's absolutely the same team that worked on Sing Yesterday for me. Because, I can't confirm it, but it looks like the character designers and the animators and everything, like, it's great. But it's fun. It's some gang hijinks. I definitely feel like it could go and become something a little more gnarly later on.
Mm-hmm.
And more than anything, this is based off of a novel, like a novel from, I think, 1998. So, like, it's some old-ass source material, relatively speaking.
Old-ass source material.
I said relatively speaking.
Yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, you're right. Like, anything before 2000 is kind of what I would define as old-ass. So
yeah, for like, the anime fandom and shit like that.
No,
but,
that's...
yeah.
I'm down to climb with that premise and that setup.
Yeah, it's fun. It is a astonishingly feel-good, fun show. Big fan.
So let me ask you this then. What did you think I was going to go to from Higurashi?
I didn't know what you were going to go to from Higurashi, honestly.
Oh, okay.
If I was going to say, like, oh, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I was going to say that Dokobo is kind of like doing this, like, new thing, I guess, where they're doing 2 shows, like in the major seasons.
Yeah,
yeah,
they are.
And they're always doing one that's, like, their normal Dokobo, like what you'd think. And then the other one seems to always be, like, a different one, like, completely different.
Right.
Like, in spring, we had Sing Yesterday to Me, and then we had, like, another one that was really, like, you know, normal Dokobo sort of thing.
I think it was Asteroid in Love, wasn't
yes,
it?
Yes, that's the one. I was about to say that, actually.
Yeah.
So, and, like, this season, apparently we've got these 2. So
yeah, Sleepy Princess and Westgate.
Wait, Sleepy Princess is a Dokobo show?
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude. Okay.
There you go. Yeah,
It's
I said
like,
these 2, but I didn't say what she chose.
I wonder if they ever have, like, auctions at work, and then it's like they, like, pull the thing out of the hat and they're like, all right,
like,
Mark, you're going to Sleepy Princess. It's like, oh.
I would love to think that's how it goes.
It would be delightful.
That's amazing.
But yeah, for the sake of the previous transition of other dark shows this season,
yeah.
I think there's like 2 others that I would classify as dark or trying to be dark that I watched.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is
Kuma
I'm
Kuma
Standing
Bear,
on a Million
obviously.
Lives.
Oh, okay, I got
What?
it wrong. Never mind. No, ignore me.
What'd you say?
He said Kuma Bear.
I was like, obviously.
I'm gonna be real with you. I watched 5 minutes of that and I dropped it.
I didn't even watch it and I dropped it.
All right. Well,
I assume you're gonna have some stuff to say about it, so we'll put a pin in that one.
no, to be honest, I was watching it before the podcast and I only watched about 5 minutes. So
okay, so like I'll just hop on this one real quick before I move on to I'm Standing on a Million Lives.
Let's say that name again.
I started watching Kuma Bear, and
I thought you were going to be talking about the one that you actually said.
I'm Standing on a Million Lives. Yes, I am going to be talking about that in a
okay.
second. But I watched like the first 5 minutes of Kuma Bear, and I was like, I don't want to watch another fucking VR MMO set in a fantasy world with a big circle town. show.
There's just
like,
a lot of them.
There's a lot of them. It's another, again, overpowered protagonist show. And then it's another, like, haha, you wouldn't expect it to be, like, X kind of person that's the overpowered protagonist. This time it's a little girl. And I'm like, I don't care. You cannot pay me to care about
I would just go watch Bofurry.
Yeah, I would just go watch Bofurry.
Right, like, yeah, exactly. Because, like, I look at that and I'm like, one, I don't really want to watch these. But two, if I did want to watch these, there are better examples. So,
right.
like, I cannot be bothered by it. And judging by what I've seen on Twitter about it, I'm not missing much.
I'm just bothered by the name, and it's short. That's Bear Kuma.
Yeah.
I am so angry about this.
I once again go back to the Taco Bell menu and the carne asada steak, which is the steak.
Steak?
Yeah, it's just it's so dumb of a name.
Like, normally I'm all for dumb names, but I can't take this. Like, this just sends me up the wall. Like, I can't do this, guys.
Oh my god. It's, its localized name is a fucking nightmare.
Oh, it's Bear?
It's the bear's bear, a bear Kuma.
That's even worse.
It's like they're trying to make the buffalo sentence.
I wish they would stop. Just stop.
Yeah, I fucking hate it, man. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, so
it was the fastest I dropped a show this season.
Yeah, so stepping on 100 people. What is it?
I'm standing on 1,000,000 lives.
Yeah.
So it is a high schooler, like an edgy chunibyo high schooler gets isekai'd into a fantasy world sort of thing. But so here's the thing. The thing about I'm Standing on 1,000,000 Lives is that it has an interesting mechanic to it. Okay? So it started out with one girl getting isekai'd. And when you get isekai'd in this fantasy world, you have to complete a mission. And if you complete the mission, then you're actually sent back to your home world.
Nice.
And so you complete it. If you don't complete it, you die. No shit.
Oh.
And so with each successive mission, the person has to get a new party member. So they have to pull another person in from the actual, like, real world.
Oh, that sucks. That's just going to be an exponential thing.
Yeah, it's just a fucking Ponzi scheme up until, like, 10 people.
Yeah.
And so, like, our edgy main boy is the third party member that gets added in. And it's him and two girls from his class, and they're like, okay, you gotta stick around in this fucking isekai world until you complete the mission. And it has an interesting mechanic where if you die in the isekai world, you respawn in 30 seconds. So you can just kind of keep dying and dying and dying and dying. But if everyone dies, if it's a party wipe, then you're dead for good. So it is, on the surface, kind of an interesting mechanic. But the more I thought about it, I was like, well, it doesn't leave any actual potential tension for, like, individual character deaths. Like, I know that nothing's going to happen to any of these characters, probably, unless there's some major ass pull sort of thing where it's like they rewrite the rules. Because it's like, if you can only die by having everyone die, then that leaves no drama for individual people to potentially die. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, and it was okay. It was fine enough. Like, one of the other quirks was like, he got assigned a job at random, and he got assigned the job of a fucking farmer. And so he had to, like, stab shit with a hoe and stuff. And then he power leveled on goblins until he got to a level where he could class change again. And he class changed into a chef. And so he just kept getting all these fucking useless classes.
Okay,
and so again,
but, like, that's my shit in an MMO.
It is, and that's great. But the fact of the matter is, it still has this underlying, like, really edgy attitude to it. Like, God, I hate Tokyo, and I hate all the people in it, and I don't want to be around any of these people. Be in this fantasy world where I can just kill monsters and shit is fucking great. And I'm like, okay, kid. So, like, it was... It's a shame because it was an interesting premise, and I think that, you know, if you took some of those individual pieces and slotted them into a better show, I think it could be cool. But as the sum of its parts, I just So.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, you get to like, I'm listening to you talk about the show, and I'm like, I would just rather go read like the manga of Darwin's Game or something.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Like, you know, where there's actually like huge stakes, because that was one of the big parts about that show.
Yeah.
So, like, hearing you describe this, I'm like, yeah, there's like no stakes unless like they rewrite the rules or something, which is, you know, not kosher. And I don't like that in a lot of shows that are like really edgy. I don't like it like, oh, we changed the rules, because that's just defeats the whole purpose.
Right, yeah, exactly.
One of the big problems that I have with like Mirai Nikki, for instance, is that the big, well, you know what I'm talking about, Zach, the thing at the end.
Yeah.
I don't like shows
where they
that
finally reveal that it's actually been a girl this whole time as the butler.
Oh my god!
I'm gonna fucking murder you.
Wrong show. Okay.
Oh god. But yeah, Darwin's Game is actually a really good comparison to make for this one specifically, because they both have a similar atmosphere and tone to them.
Mm-hmm.
But Darwin's Game actually feels like that tone is legitimate and actually holds up under, you know, the weight of the rest of the piece. And I think the whole thing of, like, you know, with Darwin's Game, it wasn't an isekai sort of thing, but like it was basically, because it's an augmented reality sort of thing.
Right.
So it's another world adjacent sort of stuff where you're still interacting with the main world.
Right, he ends up accidentally getting warped up into this other world that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, like, again, I really liked the idea of I'm Standing on a Million Lives, where there was a back and forth between, like, you have downtime in the real world, and there's the stress and anxiety that comes from, okay, well, we gotta do this, and we gotta get the right person, or we're fucked once we go to our next mission. Like, you could have such a cool fucking idea, but, you know, when it really comes down to it, it really shits the bed, and I was kind of disappointed. I wasn't expecting a lot out of it, but, you know, I just sort of hoped it would be something a little more, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a shame, because, like, you do have those moments where, like, you're like, oh, that might be an edgy show, and then Darwin's Game happens. You're like, oh, okay, no, like, that was actually, like, really enjoyable. So it's like, I want to have hope for some of these, but at the same time, I also see in the synopsis here that it's like, the cold Yusuke eschews emotionalism, and I'm just like, all right, let's calm down
and
there.
It's like I should have expected it, but I was, again, I've very much been trying to do the thing where it's like, I want to give most shows in a season a shot and see what happens, because, like, I have stumbled on a lot of really good stuff by giving it a shot. Like, again, because I did not expect, for instance, I did not really, like, expect to enjoy Sleepy Princess as much as I did. Like, I almost didn't really watch it, because I read the synopsis, and I was like, oh, well, that sounds like a absolute nothing bundle.
Yeah, but
it turned out to be one of the funnest shows of the fucking season.
Right, yeah. It's like, give it a shot, go outside your comfort zone a little bit, and then you might actually, like, get something out of it.
Yeah, and it's also not to say that, like, you know, I hate all edgy shows or things like that. You know, it's not really, like, my thing per se. It's not exactly the kind of, like, tone of an anime that I seek out often, but there can definitely be some good examples of it out there. This just is not one of them. So anyway, I don't know. It was okay. I wouldn't really recommend it. Now a dark show that I would recommend is Moriarty the Patriot.
I am actually very interested in this one, because I didn't get around to it, but it was on my list to watch. Did
either of y'all watch? Okay, Matt, did you watch this one?
No, I wasn't really interested in it, honestly.
Okay, Zach Book Report time again. So, bottom line...
Zach had more time than us.
No. Trust me, I didn't.
That's total bullshit.
He's just making us look bad right now.
I'm just flexing, man.
I'm just not interested in, like, what the season had. Sorry.
Oh, you're an adult. Okay, whatever.
As if you're not?
I'm going to go ahead and talk about the show now and ignore you.
Please do.
So, I mean, like, with Moriarty the Patriot, like, the basic idea is, what if Sherlock Holmes, but we're actually following Moriarty, his arch nemesis, instead?
That's what it seemed from the synopsis, and I was interested in that.
And the whole idea is that Moriarty is placed in this sort of anti-hero perspective as this guy who will, he's very analytic. It's very Sherlock adjacent in the way that he examines things, but he also has no qualms with, like, doing really gnarly shit, except it is in a very rigid, class-based aggression sort of system.
Right. He's pissed off that there's a hierarchy.
Yes, he hates that there is a class-based hierarchical system, and he was an orphan that was adopted into a noble family. And some shit happens to that noble family by someone within that noble family. And so basically, him, his brother, and their adoptive brother kind of work as this trio to Robin Hood, but, like, murder of the nobility of London.
Eat the rich sort of thing.
Yeah, it is a very eat the rich sort of thing. The second episode shows a flashback to young Moriarty talking with a bunch of other orphan kids. And he's like, now, what do we do if we find a bad noble? And they just start chanting, kill the rich, kill the rich, kill the rich.
Beautiful.
Love it.
Like, literally. And I'm like, hell yeah, this is my shit. This is great. So it definitely sets a very, like, dark mood and tone. Because, I mean, like, the first episode revolves around, like, a string of murders of young boys. All fitting a very similar type. And he ends up, catching the guy and allows the father of the last victim to brutally murder him in a mausoleum at the end of the episode in cold-blooded revenge. And it's fucking great because, again, it's a dark, brooding show, but it very much feels, it's kind of like I was saying with, like, Darwin's Game. It very much feels like it deserves to have that tone because it sets up its story, its characters, and its expectations in such a way that it doesn't feel like dark for the sake of just being dark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool, fun, very cerebral. I'm a big fan of it, so I would highly recommend it if you are even remotely interested in some Sherlock-adjacent shit, or if you just want to try something a little different this season.
Yeah, it was on my list. I really, really want to sit down and watch it.
Yeah, I think you would like it a lot. I don't really know if there's anything else I would say that was terribly dark this season.
Yeah, it's fine. We've covered it.
Well, okay, hold on. I guess I would say, did either of you watch Noblesse?
No, I looked at it and
cool,
I wasn't.
Don't.
Okay,
What?
I wasn't super into it, seemingly.
Okay, so it's called Noblesse. It is Crunchyroll's most recent Crunchyroll original. That's an adaptation of a webtoon manhwa. I didn't really know anything about it going into it, but the whole kind of spectrum was, like, it started out with some really weird, like, super-powered mercenaries off in, like, it felt like some East Asian war zone, and it was kind of fun to watch, I guess, in that case, but then we switched gears and turned it into, okay, now we're at a Japanese high school with a very pretty boy that's actually a vampire man that's like hundreds of years old, but he's in high school now, and he has no social skills and doesn't talk to people, and he doesn't know how to work a cell phone, and isn't that just funny? But he's still immensely popular and has a bunch of friends and like a harem of folks that want to date him. He's just absurdly popular, and by the end of the episode, it was back to the mercenaries, and they're like, okay, well, we're in Tokyo now, and we have a special mission. And I don't know what it was trying to establish in terms of itself as a show. I feel like all the webtoons that Crunchyroll has gathered and adapted so far have a touch of the way too much gene.
Yeah, I feel like we just talked about this like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, like, you were describing that show to me, and this exactly is the reason I didn't watch it, because I literally tuned out in what you were saying, because it literally
I tuned out in what I was saying.
It literally it literally felt like that there was so much going on in your description that I was just like, wow, I don't care about this at all.
Yeah, it's really fucking dumb shit. I don't know who the audience is for this. I don't understand, like, how you could really enjoy this unless you just have zero standards for the shows that you watch.
Damn.
So, I don't know. I wouldn't recommend this show to anyone. I wouldn't recommend this show to, like, my dog. I don't even have a dog. So, it's bad. Fight me, I guess, but I don't know anyone dumb enough to take up arms for this steaming pile of shit.
I was about to say, I thought Crunchyroll was shilling this pretty hard, so I thought maybe it was like...
because again, it's a Crunchyroll original.
Oh, okay, a Crunchyroll original.
Yeah, it's a Crunchyroll original.
Okay.
It's another one of their webtoon acquisitions.
Sorry, I literally don't care.
Yeah, I know. Like, I shouldn't have. So I don't know. It felt like it tried to be dark at the beginning, but then it did dumb school shit with vampires, and I just could not be bothered to care. Ugh, give me something good to talk about, please.
How about well, Matt, what do you want to do?
I was just gonna use this segment to talk about Love Live.
All right.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I watched the first 2 episodes of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did.
I figured you wouldn't. But
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I actually really like it because it feels different than like the other Love Lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like extremely.
Yeah, it really
because I feel like it's a lot. Now I realize that this, like, if everyone knows about the Love Live like All Stars like phone game, right? Like, it's like the new one.
Yeah, the most recent one that they just put out that has like these weirdly complicated RPG systems.
Yeah.
This new hotness.
Well, also, it's basically based around these characters that are in the anime. And it tells one of the most interesting of the Love Live stories, because it's not all about, like, Love Live. It's about, like, a club of girls. I'm sure you've gotten that vibe from the anime as well. There's definitely a lot more interesting things going on in that story. And it feels the most unique of all the 3.
Yeah, it really feels so much less like I want to be the ginkiest idol on the planet, and I want to be the best school idol ever. Like, it feels as though there's so much more variety beyond that, and so much more depth of character in its cast beyond that. It's really refreshing. Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with that previous stuff, but it's nice to see it iterate beyond that.
Right. So I was thinking about this earlier, and like the original Love Live like had a big focus around, well, okay, so the original Love Live had like a focus around like the school shutting down, which they kind of ditched after the first season because they had already solved that problem. And then the second season was basically a bunch of hijinks, which, I mean, is okay, but it was, you know, it kind of lost like its initial like vibe draw sort of thing.
Yeah, it's like, how do these girls come together to do something extraordinary?
Yeah. And then, like, the second iteration, like, the Aqua, like, that was more about, like, almost, like, subverting the original anime, which was about, like, oh, we're trying to save the school, but instead we can't do it. And then they have to, like, I don't want to say, like, live with that, but they have to, like, accept that, you know, accept what they want to do and not like try to just be a copycat sort of thing. And then this show is not doing either of those things. It's just like, hey, we're just a bunch of girls that want to do things and like do idol things, but we also like have these own relationships that we're trying to develop.
Yeah, and it's very cool.
The dynamics between the characters are completely different. It's not just like, we're together here because we're an idol group. It's like we're friends, but like we're trying to be friends at the same time and run an idol group. I don't know if that distinction's really making a lot of sense if you haven't seen all three,
I mean,
but
because like with previous Love Live series and a lot of idol series in that sort of vein, a lot of the togetherness and the character building comes from the fact that it's like, okay, well, we're all now sisters in arms because we're all now idols. But with this current one with Nijigasaki,
yeah,
Niji,
it's like Nijigasaki.
Yeah, whatever.
Nijigasaki, yeah.
Yeah, but with this current one, there's a lot of pre-established relationships between a lot of the characters already set up. And so that in and of itself presents an interesting dynamic to see how they bring these already existing character relationships into this group setting. But also, beyond that, it's very cool to see that these girls have their own, like, different goals in mind, and becoming an idol helps them move towards those goals. Being an idol is not the goal. It is a step towards that.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to see that difference there and to see how it very much changes how they behave as people and as idols and as characters.
Yeah, that's the main thing about this iteration. From what I've gathered from the bits of the story I've heard from the mobile game as well. It's definitely, this show is a lot more about that, what you just described, than anything else. Which is really interesting because the rest of them didn't do that. So, you could say that this is definitely an extreme deviation, but I really like this deviation because I feel like it's the most. It's easy to get. I don't want to say sucked in, but it's easy to relate to, in that regard, I guess.
Yeah, this is. I haven't really actively watched any idol series beyond the ones that we have watched as a group, specifically because I wasn't really able to feel a lot of connection between those characters, like or identification, if you will, I guess, because I was like, I mean, okay, that's cool for y'all, that's great. I don't really care that much because again, it just kind of feels very one note, and there's like small little offshoots of that. It's like, I want to be an idol but X, or I want to be an idol but like Y, and I'm like, okay, fine, I guess. But here they feel more fleshed out and they feel like more human, relatable characters. Not to say that the previous ones didn't feel like human characters, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah,
it's a little, it is definitely, I think I like the way you described it. It's less one note.
Yeah.
It feels a lot more like dynamic in terms of just the characters.
A little bit more well-rounded of an actual individual rather than just like, I am this type of trope.
Yeah.
For sure. Man, though, like, the music in this one, too, though, the whole reason I started watching this was I saw the very first performance in the show, with the pyrotechnics and shit. Like, dude, I saw that on Twitter, and that fucking, like, that clocked me in the fucking chest, and I was like, holy God, that's cool.
Like that, like that's,
oh my
like,
God.
Even after 3 episodes, I'm thinking, like, holy shit. Like, that was, like, the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, the animation's incredible, and the music slaps.
Well, well, that too, but, like, man, just even, like, the way they've, like, got it choreographed, like, and the way that, I don't know what the director did, but, man, like, whoever storyboarded that is, like, my hero right now, because that was so powerful. It, like, you could feel it. It was good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so good. Ugh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, big fan. I am very here for it.
Like, heck, if you're not even watching the show, go find that clip on Twitter or whatever and watch that, because, that's a lot.
Now, I want to talk about the actual best idol show of the season, which is Hypnosis Mic Division Rap Battle.
Yeah.
What?
What? You didn't hear about this, man?
Okay, so let me give you a rundown here. It's the future, and a all-female political party stages a coup of the government and is like, we run Japan now. And one of their commands is like, we are dismantling all weapons. Now, all battles and all violence will be conducted through rap battles through the use of these devices called hypnosis mics.
It's like the reverse AKB 0048.
Yeah, it is actually.
It's like the reverse.
Yeah, it's astonishing.
All right.
And I mean, it basically just follows 4 rap trio groups across 4 different boroughs of Tokyo. And it's so fucking stupid. It is so unabashedly stupid. Because the whole premise is just like, you see all these dudes, like there's a couple of these gangs and shit, and they're like, you know, trying to be intimidating, and they're all like threatening folks, but they're holding goddamn microphones, and it is it's one of the stupidest fucking things you could possibly ever think of. It's the least threatening shit.
I think I saw an image on Twitter where like a dude's holding a hostage with a mic to her head.
Oh, is that what that was? I think I saw that.
The police are like, fucking back down, man. And then he pulls open his trench coat, and he has like, like suicide bomber sort of things where they've got just like a bunch of bombs strapped to their chest.
He has a bunch of speakers.
He has a bunch of microphones strapped to his chest.
Oh my gosh.
Like a fucking mic bandolier. And they're like, oh my god, those are illegal mics. Those could kill you. And
I kind of want to watch this because it sounds so stupid.
Like, here's the thing. I feel like everyone should at least watch the first episode of this because, again, it is so... I cannot describe the emotional state I went through watching this first episode because I was so confused and I was so, like, shell-shocked by, like, again, just how incredibly dumb the show was at all points. Because, like, it's a goofy show and it's by no means trying to be, like, super serious because, like, that's not the point. They're here to have fun with this shit. Also, it's a anime adaptation of a music thing not unlike Love Live that's been running for like 2 or 3 years now, but it's just a bunch of rap boy groups.
I don't know.
They've got like 17 studio albums out across all the different groups.
Oh my god.
I don't know how, but I suddenly stumbled across this like a few years ago on like some random Tumblr thing because like one of the artists that I follow or something like that got into Hypnosis Mic, and then it was the only thing that they posted and I never saw them again, basically.
That's kind of amazing though.
Yeah, so like the bottom line is Hypnosis Mic is not, you know, a show that's got like a lot of great story writing, and it's not really doing anything groundbreaking. What I really love it for is, again, how consistently fucking dumb this show is, and how good it feels to watch it. It's so fun. It's like Akudama Drive in that, like, I don't really care about the story or much of anything else. I am here for all the set trappings and just the dumb shit that's going to unfold. I don't need a coherent story. I do not need to feel emotionally invested in these characters. Just give me dumbasses doing rap battles and like summoning a big fucking coffin speaker out of the ground and blowing folks up. Like, that's all I want. It's unbelievable. You owe it to yourself to at least watch the first episode so you can sit there for a couple minutes and be like, what the fuck did I just watch? I need a cigarette, and I don't even smoke.
All right. Yeah, I'll take you up on that because it honestly sounds so wild, like it's almost unbelievable unless you see it, sort of thing.
I wrote in my notes here, I still can't believe this is real. That's all I wrote for this show, for my notes.
I love shows like that, though.
Yeah, just crack open a cold one and just sit back and just let it all hit you.
Amazing. I love it. I love the concept.
Oh my god, yeah, it's a hell of a thing. God.
You know, it's a concept that I like, but I'm not like totally sold on. But I am enjoying right now is Wandering Witch.
Oh yeah.
Like I loved Kino's Journey, the original. And so, like, a similar idea, but it's, like, magical this time, is just really nice. I like that idea of just, like, going to see these various different places and seeing, like, these interesting, different, like, philosophical questions put up there. At the same time, sure. I enjoy that this feels strangely lighter than Kino's Journey, which is kind of weird because it has darker moments. But it also, like, balances.
Yeah, I was gonna say, have you watched the most recent episode, my dude?
Yeah, no. You got a twofold thing about slavery and then another one about zombie plants. I initially, like, started reading the manga and I was like, oh, okay, I really like this, and I like the interesting, like, direction that it's going for. And also, by the way, the magic is, like, beautiful in this show. I love the way that they animate the magic and make it look in this show. I'm just really attracted to, like, the episodic idea of just various different places in this world that's going to complete her own book, like the one that she grew up on. Where Kino's Journey, like, technically doesn't try to make any overall statements about, like, this or that. It's, like, very obviously the author is trying to make a statement with this. Whereas I feel like sometimes the author kind of misses the mark for some of these situations that our main character comes across.
Oh, what, in Wandering Witch?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just ask real quick. Matt, have you watched any Wandering Witch?
Yeah, I'm caught up on all the episodes.
Okay.
I kind of have my own thoughts about this, so continue on.
Yeah. So I like Wandering Witch in a lot of different ways. I think the first episode is one of the best first episodes I've seen maybe ever.
It's very good.
It is astonishingly good because it does such a very cool job of setting up Elaina as a character. And I think that they do a very good job of developing her because, you know, she's this very talented young witch who studies her ass off. She's good at what she does all the time. And then her, you know, the witch that brings her in, you know, decides to, after being hired by her parents, teach her about failure and overcoming obstacles. And it's gnarly and it's heartbreaking to watch because she fucking loses her shit because, you know, she works for this witch for a month. She doesn't learn any magic. And then she has to fight her, you know, mentor and gets the living shit beat out of her. And, you know, it's heartbreaking because it's like, oh, this was supposed to just be a lesson, like to see you overcome stuff. And it leaves off the first episode with, you know, her having gone by a couple years in training. And it's like, okay, cool. I have learned stuff. I have really grown. And they leave this off with these ideas of, I think it's like, her parents give her like 3 rules. It's like, you know, check back on us at some point. But they also say, like, you know, just because you're good at stuff, be humble about it. You know, don't think that you're someone special. Don't think that you're better than anyone else, and a bunch of other stuff like that. And there's something else I don't really remember.
The other one is if you get into a bad situation, run away.
Yeah, and I thought it was a very good. I thought it was a very cool way to present these ideas here.
That's a pretty good anchor point to start off a series, I think.
Yes.
It is. And then we get into episode 2 and find that in the years that Elaina has been wandering around, she has completely forgotten at least one of those rules, which is be fucking humble. Don't think of yourself as someone special.
Gosh, she loves when people like are just like, "Oh, you're this wonderful witch," and she's like, "Yes, please, praise me more."
Yeah, she is insufferable in that point. It is sort of funny and kind of endearing, but at the same time, it's just kind of like, I don't know. It's all right. I do kind of think that it would have been cool to approach it from the perspective of someone trying to engage in those lessons that they learned. The other thing is, though, like, I really think it's a very cool, kind of like you said, Kyle, it's a very Kino's Journey sort of thing. I really like the idea that it's an episodic format and that she's going around and checking out a bunch of all this different shit here.
Right.
Now, where I kind of have issue, and like, I know that we talked about the third episode a couple days ago, and I've kind of sat on it for a while, and my thoughts have changed a bit.
Yeah.
So where Kino's Journey, like in Kino's Journey, Kino encounters a lot of pretty not great situations. And in those cases, you know, when Kino doesn't necessarily act in some of those, it's kind of because Kino doesn't really have the power to do anything. You know,
right.
At the end, Kino is just a traveler, just a journeyer. And that's it. Like, what the fuck are they going to do? But here, Elaina encounters some really bad situations. Again, a girl that she very explicitly knows is in a bad situation, who is bought into slavery and understands the absolute turmoil she's going through by, you know, this boy has a crush on her, going out and gathering magic and gathering all these great experiences of folks. And the lesson's like, oh yeah, I remember reading a story about this where this wife was bedridden and her husband went out and got all these magic memories out to show her how wonderful the world is. And it didn't turn out well because the wife saw it and it just made her more depressed and she ended up killing herself. And she was like, oh yeah, that's what happened. Tee-hee, see you later. And then also in that same episode, there was this whole thing about this town that was about to be overrun by these weird flower zombie sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
And she is well aware that this shit is coming, but she's also one of the most accomplished witches in the land. And in both of these situations, she could have very easily done something to prevent any further harm there. And I know part of it's like, it's not my business sort of thing. But like, again, with Kino's Journey, there was not the kind of huge power agency that Kino could have enacted to do anything about this shit. Elaina can, and she just chooses not to. And that kind of irritates me about her as a character, I think. Like, I get it, I understand it, like, not everyone has to, you know, go out of their way and be a good guy all the time and all that sort of shit. You know, not everyone is obligated to be a hero necessarily. But I also think that with the lessons and everything that's been instilled here, it's really infuriating to see her so easily, like, cast that shit off. And I'm sure that that's part of the character development, and I understand that, but I'm just like, oh, you're such a shit.
Yeah, it's really nasty to look at because, like, choosing to let an entire town die or choosing to let a child in slavery commit suicide, like, that's not good in any way, shape, or form. And so we're basically
it's not
starting...
like I'm just minding my own business. It's
right.
I'm neglecting something that I have the power and agency to do something about.
It's genuine apathy whenever you are literally the only person that could do something about this. And I understand that, like, we see her struggle with that a little bit in the slavery episode, and so I assume, because I didn't get very far in the manga whenever I read it, so I assume that as this goes on, like, this is going to be a turning point of her character, is that her realizing that, yeah, she's shitty. But so far, we've just seen nothing about that. And so we just have this character that's choosing to let people die and suffer whenever it really should be her job and her obligation to do something about it.
Yeah. Now, again, all that aside, I still love the fuck out of this show.
It's a good show.
I'm really enjoying it. It's still one of my favorites of the season so far.
Yeah.
But I just have issues with Elaina as a character at this point, is all.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that that's kind of the point. Like, I'm hoping that that's what the show is going to address.
Yeah. Now, Matt, I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are on here, because it sounded like you were going to approach this from, like, a real curveball angle that we weren't expecting.
So, a little bit. So, I this is a really complicated thing. So, well, for one, you just threw a curveball at me by stating something that kind of changed what I was going to say a little bit.
Oh, oopsie.
Well, you made the point about like how like the rule number 2, right? Like, don't think of yourself as some special person. Which, yeah, you pointed out that she has totally disregarded that rule. I was going to use that a little bit to justify the action. Not justify. That's not the right word. But to make some kind of sense of her actions in episode 3, but you completely debunked that by saying that she hasn't followed that rule. So,
well, I mean, like, you can still think that. Like, just because I have that opinion doesn't mean you can't have another one.
At the same time, though, like, it wouldn't make any sense for me to make an exception for that instance and not for the others. So, I was kind of thinking about this from... I know, Kyle, you said you hadn't gotten that far into manga, but what I'm interested in, first off, because I'm going to state this now before I forget it, does anybody know, like, if this particular, because it feels like this is kind of like episodic based, like Kino's Journey, like we talked about that, but at the same time, I'm wondering when this took place in the manga. Are we doing like an out of order sort of thing? Like, did this take place later in the manga and they just pushed it to the front for the anime to draw interest?
So, in the case of both stories well, let me just say this: the farthest I got in reading the manga was like chapter 3 or 4. The chapters are actually relatively long, and this is pretty much chapter per chapter in the manga as things are going.
Okay, so what chapter was this exactly?
This
episode 3?
would be the 3-ish 4-ish kind of place with the plants and with the slavery shtick.
Okay, so you got that far in the manga?
That's as far as I got.
Okay.
It was because I stopped there because I was like, oh, this is suddenly darker than I was expecting, and so like that was whenever I was like, all right, well, I'll get around to it again, and then I just never did.
Okay. Okay, so I was thinking that maybe this is some kind of instance where, and I'll talk about the exact, the exact episode contents in a second, but I'm thinking that maybe as a director, maybe I would have pushed this episode back, like, as a later... If I was doing an adaptation of this personally, I think I would have pushed this back until, like, episode probably 6, 7, 8-ish. Unless they're going to do something with it, which I don't know. I don't know the source material at all. So, I feel like I would have pushed it back because, yeah, it kind of feels like it's sprung out of nowhere a little bit.
It feels really odd after the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, it's
kind of cutesy, feel good sort of things.
It's completely jarring because there's no hints of and this is where I have a problem, is that there's like almost no hints of the darker elements. Like, there's a little bit in episode 2, like you could argue like getting your brooch stolen by a brat thief sort of thing that's wanting to get back home is kind of dark, but not on the same scale as, like, the 3rd episode. Yeah. Like, that's not even the same thing, really. And as far as, like, episode 3 itself goes, like, I think what really rubs me the wrong way, the plant story, I feel like that was, like, I feel like that one is not on the same scale as the slave story. Yeah. Like, that is, like, yeah, I don't know. I kind of viewed it as that town is probably going to be able to defend themselves. They're used to having attacks like that if they know about the flower thing.
Yeah, so allegedly
that's a fair point.
They've known about it. They have the gas mask. This is an active situation they're trying to deal with.
Yeah, so I was like, well, they probably know about that, so that's not really a big issue. The second one, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Maybe not necessarily because of the content, because, like, I think I've seen, like, darker things happen in anime for sure, but what the presentation of it rubbed me the wrong way. Like, they set it up like, oh, she read a story about the wife, like you were saying, and then, like, she kind of, like, I guess Elaina as a character, like the way that episode that part was presented was really I didn't agree with that, because like she talks about the story, then she does her own version that's, you know, version adjacent part of that story, like and then she comes back and reveals later, like, you know, like, oh, I remember the other part of the story, and then it was like this dark revelation. And for some reason, that presentation of that just like really didn't sit right with me, and I was trying to figure out why, because and I mean, I did figure out why. It's because like it kind of just felt like it was just like she knew all along, but she didn't want to think about it, or like maybe the writer just, I don't know. I just don't feel like it was well written, like in general. Like, I don't know.
Like, I understand that. So here's the thing. I feel as though there is a way to tell a story about that, where in which it discusses how people that are able-bodied and are in positions of ability, how they can, you know, be blissfully ignorant of the suffering of others, and how that can detrimentally affect others. And I feel as though there's a way to tell that story without it being so, like, thoughtless almost about the consequences.
Right.
I mean, because it's saying, like, well, oh, here's what happened. Oopsie, I guess that's what's going to happen here, too. Doesn't life just suck? And, I mean, it's really callous.
Yeah.
You know? And there's nothing wrong with having something be callous, because there are a lot of stories that tell these sorts of callous things. But the fact of the matter is, kind of like you said, Matt, this was not set up from the outset to be something that is overly callous.
Yeah, and again, maybe this is just like, no, I'm in kind of agreement with you. Like, there's no real setup for this, and I don't know if this is like, is this episode the anomaly, or is the rest of the show gonna go like this? Like, it's kind of one of those things, like, we're at a point in this show where we're not exactly sure what is going to be coming next. Like, we don't know if it's, like, basically, it's too early on in the show to know if more episodes are going to be like episode 2, or more episodes going to be like episode 3. And no one can answer that question here, because we haven't read the source material. And if more episodes are like episode 3, that's going to change my view completely different than if more episodes are like episode 2. And that creates a complete, like, tone dissonance, because where we don't know which tone it's going for, and there's no real illusion to know, like, because it kind of just seems like it's pulling whatever tone it wants to, which, I mean, that's fine if it wants to change its tone for, like, an episode every now and again, but at the same time, like, I don't know,
it's insanely jarring and honestly, like, very, very apathetic of a series to have, like, cutesy tone, and then the very next episode, discussion of suicide of a slave girl, and then go back to cutesy, or vice versa. Like, that's not okay, I think, for a series as a whole.
Well, like, I don't want to say, like, outright that that's completely wrong of a series to do, because I'm sure Kino's Journey does similar things, like, maybe not on the same scale, but just.
But it has, like, happier episodes and sadder episodes kind of thing.
Yeah, like, so I'm not going to write it off completely as, like, a complete thing, but I think the problem here is that episode 3, that slave story was just not told very well, or however they decided to tell it was not the right way to do it, and I think that's what rubbed me the wrong way about it. Like, it just didn't seem like it was well written, and I felt like that even with Elena's mindset, like, as a character, I don't feel like it was really reflective of, like, her behavior from the past episodes. I don't know, it just felt really inconsistent to me, and it just, I don't know, it just didn't feel right. and I just didn't like how it was written in general.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a good show, but as I said, we're kind of like in a point where I'm like, I don't know, what is this show going for? I don't really know. So
I don't really know either. Like all the episode really managed to do was cement the thought in my mind that Elaina is a huge self-absorbed douche, and that's not really setting up the rest of this series for me to be like super jazzed. Like it's one thing when she was kind of like a whimsical little dick ass in the second episode where she was like, you know, willing to kind of help out that one aspiring witch, but she also didn't take any shit at all when she found out that that witch had actually stolen her brooch, and so she stood up for herself and was, again, you know, someone that was like fishing for any and all praise, and she's very self-absorbed and all this other stuff, and like that's fine, but like,
yeah, I don't have a problem
it felt
with
like they doubled down on it in terms of like, I am self-absorbed to the point that I literally could not possibly give a flying fuck about anyone but myself.
Well, it's
despite the fact that I'm in this position of power.
I think it's even beyond like a double downing on it. It's like a completely different personality. Like,
yeah, I know.
It's honestly, yeah, it's very character dissonant.
It's not. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not even like, it feels like I'm watching, like almost a parallel version of the show.
Right.
It's like I'm watching Cells at Work, and then I'm watching Cells at Work Black. You know, like. Mm-hmm. That's where like cells are murdering each other. And like same sort of things happening in both shows, but it's completely different. That's the way episode 2 and 3 felt to me. And as I said, as a viewer, I don't know which one it is. Like, I don't know what are more episodes going to swing this way, or are they going to swing the other way? I don't know. And
as some information, since you were asking about the source material is a light novel. There are 4 volumes currently. Apparently it's supposed to be an ongoing series, but like one of the volumes hasn't even been, it has 4 volumes out. I don't know how far those go. I can't imagine very far, but in the manga adaptation that I was reading before we got the anime adaptation, apparently there's only 4 chapters out in the manga adaptation. So
that's weird.
I can't really say where exactly this is going to go.
Yeah, and manga adaptations can sometimes be really different than light novels.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So it's kind of odd because I tried to track down like if I could read the source material, but to be honest, like they only just started printing it in English this year, so I don't know if we have any metric that we could base this on of like where this series is going to go.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing just felt really weird to me. So
yeah, I would agree.
I guess we'll just wait and see. I kind of hate to say that about a show in general. But yeah, I don't know.
I hope it figures out its main character, and I hope that also shows itself in some type of character growth or development where she's not suddenly this insanely narcissistic individual that is just refusing to help people when she's the only one that can. I'm
kind of hoping it was just like a bad written segue, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't even want to like, I don't want the rest of the show to be like that. I want it to be like, oh, this is like, this is like a badly written portion that like the author wishes they want to do over or something. You know, like the Sword Art Online author, like wanting to rewrite all of the first novels because they weren't good, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think the show is,
I guess we'll see, fine.
Like, I don't have any, I don't know. It's one of those things that like, man, the show was, I still really like the show, but yeah, it can do better than whatever that last episode was.
It really left a bad taste in my mouth, and even if the rest of the show is not like that, I'm still going to be thinking about this episode, because you can't, like, I feel like I can't divorce that from who Elaina is as a character. And
right.
That's going to bug me.
Yeah.
It's it's one of those things that I saw on Twitter where a lot of people were like, all right, well, I was interested, but I might just check out now. And I wouldn't necessarily blame them, but
I mean, I wouldn't blame them, but I also think, like, if the rest of the series isn't like that, maybe it's a little unfair to tell if nobody really knows how it's going to go. Like,
it'll be unfair in retrospect, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I still fully plan to watch it. I want to give it the benefit of the doubt. I don't see myself dropping this unless it just does something absolutely horrendous, which I doubt. But, again, it just felt very tonally weird, especially for this early on.
Yeah. Let me speed run a couple of comfy shows real quick just to get them out of the way. So I wanted to get started on Is the Aura Rabbit Season 3. I think I'm literally the only person in the world that was wanting to watch this show. So
I didn't even watch the second season. So.
I did.
I didn't even watch the first one.
It's if you wanna watch comfy girls making tea and coffee and horribly mispronouncing it, yeah, that's your show.
I'm sorry, I literally don't care.
I also started watching the Sports Climbing Girls show.
Climbing Girls is fun.
I actually enjoy it so far. I find the setup very run-of-the-mill, but I'm willing to give it a shot because climbing as a sport I've always actually been interested in. And so it'll be interesting how they tackle that. And they actually do a pretty decent job of, like, not only explaining the various different shit in it, but actually, like, animating, like, how somebody is supposed to, like, traverse
do sport climbing.
Yeah. And yeah. I really enjoyed that. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, I really dig it for what it is, especially since, like, so many sports shows that focus on an all-female cast are generally, like, you know, some soft tee-hee-ha-ha kind of shit. Right. But, like, Climbing Girls here actually has a lot of shonen sport trappings, like a lot of really heated rivals and a lot of, like, wild training montage kind of shit and, like, real, like, character, like, physical growth and development. And it's very cool to see that in, again, an all-female sports series, to see that it's like, okay, cool, we can actually get these kind of stories with a cast that's not just all dudes. It's very nice to see. Big fan.
It's also nice to see various different character archetypes, but they're, like, none of them are actually just, like, dainty. Like, if they're doing the sport, they're doing the sport for real. Like, they're, like, the muscles are great. Like, the first character that they show, where it's, like, the actual professional athlete, I'm just like, thank you. I'm glad that you're showing that and not just some, like, dainty, like, 120-pound girl with no muscle. And you're like, yeah, no, she's ripped. And I'm like, what?
I also super appreciate that this fucking, like, complete newbie that they brought in that was just, like, a fucking weird-ass gamer girl. They brought her into a tournament the second day, and she totally fucking, like, blew it later on because they were like, you just started. You don't have the upper body strength for this. No shit, you failed on it. But good on you for trying. And so it was cool to see it be, like, actually realistic about this stuff instead of like, oh, we pulled a sports miracle out of our butts again.
Yeah.
So
I also like that
I appreciate it for that.
They show that it's not just the physicality too, like the actual intelligence of, like, where you're actually traveling and where you need to go as you're climbing. I love that they're showing that side of it too. So as somebody who's excited for, like, a comfy sports thing, I'm here for it. I want to see where that goes. I also got started on Kamisama ni Natta Hi, or The Day I Became a God.
That's right. That's the Jun Maeda show.
Yeah, it is.
Fuck, I didn't get started on that.
It's the first episode is very happy-go-lucky, which makes me extremely worried.
Yep.
That's why
you should be scared.
Yeah, that's why I was, like, looping it in, like, a comfy show thing, is because it's extremely comfy right now, and I'm not okay with that. the only hint that there's something darker going on is that the main character is just constantly being hassled by a girl who calls herself Odin, and she has a godly ability of omniscience, so she knows about everything and when everything is going to happen. And she says that the world is going to end in 30 days, and she's just decided to spend her last 30 days with this asshole. And that's the setup. And I'm like, it's really funny and cute, and it's like nice and kind of like interesting right now, and there's a lot of jokes, and I'm scared.
maybe this is like Jun Maeda's playing the long game here, and maybe this is like gonna be the one show that has all the elements and then doesn't do anything with them.
That would be fucking
Oh my
great.
god, that would be a galaxy brain play on his part.
Granted,
and then you would never know from any story here on out. You would be like, oh my god, is he gonna do something or is he just toying with us?
Yeah, everyone's gonna be like, on this next he's gonna do like 2 in a row where it's gonna be like this one and another one, and then everyone's like, is Jun Maeda just into the slice of life now? Is that what's going on? And then he just kills us. He straight up murders someone live on television. There's only 2 episodes out. I've only seen 1 episode so far, so I can't say exactly where it's gonna go. It is labeled as a drama though, so who boy.
Yeah.
Then again, they've also changed the labels, so like in shows in the past, so you never know.
That's true. That's true.
That's true.
So I'm disturbed at how comfy it is right now, but at the same time, currently it's comfy, and so I'm like, just please don't randomly turn into Higurashi or something.
I've never seen him go that far. I've seen some pretty interesting twists on him, so
I just don't know if I can handle another Charlotte.
You know, Charlotte's kind of unique though. All of his twists are pretty unique.
Yeah, they are.
Oh my god, like
I want to get off Jun Maeda's wild ride.
Yeah, they're all like really wild rides.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll just have to see where this goes. Right now it seems like it's setting itself up very much like the first couple episodes of Charlotte, where it's like not anything like too high stakes. So just waiting for that other foot to fall, like the shoe that drops. So yeah, and that's most of what I've actually seen for this season.
Have you seen Adachi and Shimamura?
I was going to wait to talk about it because I knew that this was very much Mattcore, so.
I
thought it was because
I didn't get to it.
You bitch.
Hey now.
No, I'm kidding.
Language.
Watch your profanity. Watch your profanity. This show, I think, is going to be interesting because the characters are unique, if nothing else, I think, so far. I feel.
I appreciate Adachi and Shimamura in that it is a show that has queer romance elements in it that are not just fucking bait, because from episode 2, we have a clear admission from Adachi that like, hey, I really fucking like this girl.
Yeah.
Holy shit, she's cute. She's so fucking pretty. And all Adachi wants to do, like, girl, just fucking kiss her. Like, come on, do something. It's great. I love it. I see how it's a slow burn. I don't know why we have an astronaut girl in it.
I'm here for the astronaut, though.
It's fine, but I don't know. It reminds me of something, and I don't quite know how to place it.
The penguins in Mario Penguin Drum?
I was gonna say that, or like, it feels like the Tanuki from Gekkan Shoujo Nozaki-kun. And like, why are you here exactly?
Oh.
Who told you to put it here?
Interesting.
We have this perfectly nice little coming-of-age queer romance story, but we also have a very small astronaut alien girl also here for some reason. What's happening?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I am very much enjoying the story so far. I saw where some people were just like, this is definitely a thigh guys kind of show, and I'm like, Yeah, I can see that the director likes thighs. But, like, I think it kind of tones it down a little bit between episode 1 and 2, though. Where
it can be a little voyeuristic.
A little.
I believe you're right in that, like, he was like, okay, we got folks in after the first episode, now we can fucking pump the brakes.
Yeah, it's like they wanted to, like, sell the show a little bit more with something tantalizing, and I'm like, I'm not here for that, but the story itself is good, and so I'm just like, all right. And then, you know, episode 2 is a little better about that. So
I just kind of want to point out, this is right after we just talked about the Muscle Girl show, which Kyle talked about the muscles for like a whole minute and a half. So I just throwing that out there.
Specifically, I'm talking about body types and just the lack of body type diversity in shows.
That is definitely not how the conversation came across to me, but okay.
Okay, my bad.
I got what you meant, Kyle.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I guess maybe it was because I didn't watch the show. Okay. I don't know. I'm still kind of like, I think I'm gonna try out Adachi, but I don't know. Like, I feel like it might be too saccharine for me. I don't know. It kind of rubs me the wrong way sometimes.
Saccharin?
Saccharin?
What did I say?
Saccharine?
That sounds more like a fruit than what I was going for.
Yeah, it's a sugary tangerine. That's
Yeah, sorry. Yes, that's what I meant, Zach.
No, but I know what you mean.
You're referencing back to citrus because, you know, queer anime. Okay, yeah, I got you.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
so we're gonna move this one. Like,
I mean, I thought citrus was okay.
I'm enjoying this one a lot more than citrus, just because like the romantic dynamic seems a lot more healthy.
Yeah, it's not teehee stepsisters.
It's also not teehee, I attack you in the middle of the night and oh, what do you feel about that? It's like, no, it's like actually like a genuine.
I wasn't like a huge fan of citrus, but I kind of still liked it for its trashiness. Okay. Moving on to less.
A little too saccharine for you?
Yeah, I'm very picky. I can't help it.
That's fine.
It'd be like that, man.
So, anyone watch Mahouka? I didn't watch Mahouka. I was just asking if anyone else did.
I didn't watch Mahouka.
I haven't watched Mahouka.
Okay, cool.
I feel bad because I should, but
I feel like that's almost like on our brand, but oh well, that's okay. I did watch Warlords of I can't find
Sigrdrifa.
Yeah, I was definitely not going to try to pronounce that.
I put out a phonetic pronunciation for myself in the notes.
Nice. Yeah. So I wasn't expecting the first episode to be like an hour.
Yeah, I was not expecting it to get a double bill.
That's interesting. I didn't mind it. I thought it was. So I went into the first 10 minutes of the show thinking, "Oh God, like it's one of these shows." I'm going to literally be bored to death for the next 20 minutes. And honestly, like, it was better than I expected.
Yep.
I really liked the, I actually, by the end of the first episode, I was like, oh, you know what? I kind of like the dynamic the characters have going for them. And I just thought, yeah, I could watch this. I mean, I don't really have like a whole lot to say about it. I like the quirkiness of the characters. Yeah.
I went in knowing that this was an anime original by the dude that wrote ReZero.
Oh.
And so I went in with those expectations. And I see a lot of his style in terms of the character writing and interaction. And man, I felt it a lot. Like, I really appreciate the diversity, well, you know, quote unquote, diversity of the cast in that, like, I enjoy the broadcast of characters that all interact in excellent ways with one another. The banter is quick and snappy and fun and, you know, on brand for the characters that they've set up to this point. The dog fights and stuff are pretty cool. You know, it's fine, but honestly, more than anything, I'm just here for the character interaction.
Yeah.
They have really sucked me in with this cast of characters.
Yeah, it's really surprising. Because that's not something I was expecting out of this show, especially after the first 10 minutes of the board meeting and shit. I was like, whoa, this is like a completely different show in like the latter half of this first episode. I'm like, I understand. Maybe I guess it is kind of similar to Re:Zero in the fact that there's a lot of background establishment before you get into the character establishment.
Yeah, even then, once you get into the characters, there's still a lot to scratch away at underneath the surface.
Yeah, because I mean, I got done with the first episode, and I was like, wow, there's still like a whole lot of shit that we can like address and, you know, go into the background of, you know. So
yeah,
I'm just very excited to get into more because
yeah, me too.
Yeah, that was very interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it wasn't like a Strike Witches sort of scenario where there was like a lot of like, or I guess more like King Cole, where it just felt like bleh, like uninteresting.
You didn't actually watch the new Strike Witches, did you?
No.
Okay.
I've never even watched Strike. I've never even watched it, but I know enough about Strike Witches to know it's like
to not watch it.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I'm glad that this is more on brand with like Girls in Panzer or High School Fleet than Strike Witches, because Strike Witches is not a show I want to watch. So not my thing. Just saying.
Yeah.
I don't have.
But Warlords of Sigrdrifa, definitely my thing.
Yeah.
Very here for it.
Very good.
I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. Definitely.
I don't think I have anything else that I've watched.
Literally the only other thing I'm watching is Haikyuu, and it's Haikyuu. It's one of the best sports anime there is currently. So, like, if you like Haikyuu, it's more Haikyuu.
Oh yeah,
Why are
like
you watching it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also know that there probably is going to be a lot of people that are going to go for the Inuyasha sequel kind of thing. I just don't remember Inuyasha like at all.
Inuyasha.
So...
What?
There's an Inuyasha sequel.
Oh. Inuyasha, yeah.
I don't remember exactly what it's called.
Hanyo no Yashihime, whatever the hell that is.
Yeah, Yashihime, that's the one.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of really weird shit this season that I'm like,
yeah,
wow, okay, just completely different stuff out of left field. So, pretty interesting season in that regard. So,
good stuff.
Yeah. Is there? I'm done. I've said what I needed to at this point.
Yeah, that's probably gonna be it there. So
yeah, this has been a fun 3 hours.
It was a lot.
Yeah. I mean, when we said there was a lot this season, there's a fucking lot this season.
And the good thing about this season, I think, is that there's a lot of like really different stuff that's not similar to one another, like some seasons where it's like, oh yeah, we can go through a bunch of slice of life shows, but each slice of life show this season has been super different from each other.
Yeah.
So we have to and I think that's why this has gone on for a while.
and we only have like a couple of like reincarnated or virtual reality shows compared to like sometimes for some seasons we get like 5 or 6.
Yeah. So yeah, very diverse season. Very exciting.
Yeah, it's great. Big fan.
Go watch some stuff.
Or don't.
Yeah, or don't. Who knows? There's
your
a
life,
lot of
your
stuff
choices.
this season that you just shouldn't watch. Maybe you should just be like, hey, anime, what about no?
Yeah, and then you can just be like,
Bye,
okay,
anime.
I'm going to backlog all these. And wait.
And then we'll hire you like 5 years from now.
Yeah, you got to have a backlog of at least like 10,000 anime like us. Okay.
Was that one of the requirements?
All right. Well, thanks for watching while I go fire Zach after the podcast. So, alrighty,
folks, it's been a fun 5 years.
I
hate
catch
all
y'all.
of you.
We'll catch you all on the next one, except for Zach.
Yeah. if you don't see him next time, that's why.
Yeah, when I'm replaced with the sock monkey, you'll know what happened. Bye.
Right.
I guess forever.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. As always, you can find all our podcast, articles, videos, etc. at thebacklogers.com. Our intro-outro song is The Bear by Sean the Pit, who you can find on Spotify as well as Bandcamp. And we'd love to hear from you all either in the comments on our site or any feedback you want to leave us on whatever podcast platform you like. iTunes, SoundCloud, or some weird website in the future that conglomerates all of anime ever with one subscription. Anime Communism. And as always, we're on Twitter at _Backloggers, so pull up a sit and log and stop by for a bit. See you later!